Chapter 367. Seeing such a line of words, Gue Chengren's scalp went numb, his eyes widened, and he couldn't help but shout. CNN scum, I'm about to die and you still want to break the chapter. Even if I become a ghost, I won't let you go. Trash author. Motherf ****. Along with the roar, Gue Chengren's face became even paler. The blood in his chest seemed to have found an exit and flowed out desperately. Gue Chengren edited a message and sent it out. Then, he crushed his phone and looked at the dark sky. In my next life, I want to be an author and take liberties with you. It was somewhere. A young man took out his phone, glanced at it calmly, and then deleted it. He took a deep breath and pushed open the door in front of him. The layout of the room was very simple. There were bookshelves around the wall, and a faint fragrance of paper filled the room. A man dressed in gorgeous clothes stood by the window, holding a book in his right hand. The soft moonlight shone on his body, making him look particularly mysterious. Mission failed. The man continued to read the book after listening. He stretched out his slender fingers and gently flipped through it. The subtle sound of flipping echoed in the room. It was obviously very ordinary, but in this environment, it made people's mood unstable, as if there was a big stone pressing on their chest, making them unable to breathe. The man didn't leave. He bowed and waited for the order. The man dressed in gorgeous clothes continued to read the book, and the sound of flipping could be heard from time to time in the room. No one knew how long had passed. Pah! The man closed the book and slowly turned around. He frowned slightly and asked, Wuxia, when did you come? 2 hours ago. Wuxia said lightly. The man nodded and asked in confusion, Why didn't you call me? Wuxia doesn't dare. Sigh, you guys are so timid. The man seemed very helpless. Wuxia complained in his heart. We have to be timid in front of you, otherwise, how can we set off your bravery? The man sat in front of the desk, turned on the computer, logged into the QQ game, and was actually playing Link Link. What's the matter so late? The man asked with his chin propped up. Gue Chengren failed. I already said that your plan won't work. These 3 giants are not under our control, so don't interfere with their affairs. The man said lightly. Wuxia lowered his head and said fearfully, Wuxia is wrong. All right, it's not bad to teach you a lesson. Our mission is to monitor those reincarnated and transmigrators. In recent years, the space has been unstable, and reincarnated and transmigrators have come to our territory in droves, increasing the difficulty of our work. Thinking of this, the man seemed to be a little impatient. F***CK, the workload has increased, but the salary has not increased, and they even proposed all kinds of regulations. This kind of enterprise will go bankrupt sooner or later. However, there were some people who were lucky, such as Xiao Yi and Chen Xuanzong, who were considered to have reincarnated with strength. Therefore, these people only needed to be monitored, and when the time is right, they would be captured, crippled of their strength, and sent back. However, Yihua never expected that his danger level was only A rank, and it was only now that his danger level was raised to S rank. I am a homicidal maniac. Can't you all be a bit more attentive? If I want to evaluate my danger level, I am definitely number 1. If you don't agree, then argue. No. If you don't agree, then fight. Zhu Tian sent the 2 women back to the staff dormitory, then went to report today's news. Yihua was originally sleeping, but after knowing that Zhu Tian came to report today's news, he immediately lost his sleepiness. Because Yihua wanted to teach them a lesson, then wait for them to come back with an apologetic gaze. Zhu Tian reported everything that happened tonight, and he even told Yihua some of his thoughts. Good. Very good. After Yihua heard what Zhu Tian said, he was extremely satisfied. Not only did I mess up the aristocratic family's election, I even caused the relationship between the aristocratic families to become even more tense. Zhu Tian, go ahead and do what you want. At most they would only be guessing, but they do not have any evidence to prove that you are one of my people. Yihua was very excited. If this goes on, it won't be long before they surrender and return to Yihua. I still have my trump card, and the longevity fruit will definitely be able to make everyone go crazy. Although Yihua was furious, he didn't want to expose everything at once. After all, this was a rare opportunity to teach them a lesson. Chapter 368. Very good. I feel much more at ease now that you are in charge. Zhu Tian was terrified, Your honor's words are too serious. Doing things for your honor is the way of the heavens. Subordinate doesn't dare to be greedy. Yi Hua patted onto Zhu Tian's shoulder. All right, go back and properly comfort that woman. This subordinate understands. Yi Hua waved his hand, and Zhu Tian disappeared from the office. I can have a good sleep tonight. I'll see how they decide tomorrow. It was not so easy to be a good person. A good person had to go through 81 tribulations to become a Buddha. As for the bad guys, they only needed to lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. Early morning in Voidless Realm. Celestial mist lingered around. The environment was elegant, and it could be said to be a fairyland. Donghuang Baiji, who was in her bedroom, pursed her lips and turned her body. Her jade-like arms seemed like she wanted to hug someone, but in the end, she hugged nothing but air. Slowly opening her beautiful eyes, Yi Hua discovered that she was sleeping on the familiar imperial bed. Yi Hua let out a breath. I am already used to Yi Hua sleeping beside me, and now that he is suddenly not here, I am a bit not used to it. Your Majesty, the elders are already waiting in the main hall. A maid stood behind the curtain and said. Donghuang Baiji stood up, and the four maids hurriedly walked up to her and placed the emperor robe that was on the clothes rack onto Donghuang Baiji's body. After that, they prepared some clean water to wash up. As for the other two maids, they combed their hair into a bun, and finally, they put on the crown. The living empress appeared. Her beautiful face was filled with lofty majesty. Her beautiful eyes were calm, but there was a hint of sternness. The female attendants in the surroundings bowed, not daring to look directly at the empress's face, but they could also feel the empress's imposing aura. This was the correct way to activate Donghuang Baiji. Walking out of the sleeping quarters, a group of golden-robed and silver-armored figures followed behind. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The sound resounded throughout Voidless Realm, and it was as if the sound was telling everyone in Voidless Realm that the Empress had woken up. At this moment, everyone who had woken up looked towards the highest mountain peak and kowtowed. Donghuang Baiji had already gotten used to this kind of lifestyle. She walked towards the palace with large strides, and on her way there, she enjoyed everyone kowtowing to her. He slowly walked up to the throne and stood on it without sitting down. Yuan Da and the others who were standing below shouted in unison. Greetings, Your Majesty. May the Empress live as long as the heavens. All of you get up. Donghuang Baiji raised her jade-like arm, then sat down. Thank you, Your Majesty. The dozen or so people stood up and lowered their heads slightly, not daring to look directly at the face of the Empress. What's the matter so early in the morning? Donghuang Baiji asked faintly. Yuan Da and the others faltered. In the past, the Empress would never mention this. Isn't it all because I was pampered by Yi Hua? For the past few days, I have basically been sleeping with Yi Hua until 10 in the morning. Therefore, she was very angry when she woke up. Xing Han cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, last night, 2 major events happened in the north. I hope Your Majesty can make a decision. Donghuang Baiji sighed lightly. Why did something happen again? Why didn't he have so many things to do in the past? He had only left home for 2 days. Could he still leave the house quietly? It must definitely be Yi Hua, that miser. What is it now? Donghuang Baiji asked faintly. He Xian said respectfully, Last night, the Guan family's young master was assassinated in his house. Coincidentally, the patriarchs of the 5 great clans were having a meeting and discovered the murderer. They chased after the murderer, but unexpectedly, they saw 2 of the aristocratic clans having a bloody battle. Both sides suffered heavy losses, and the murderer looked at the patriarchs of the 4 great clans before he died. This made Guantong think that the murderer must have been arranged by one of the 4 great clans. Donghuang Baiji. Yuan Da, say it again. Be more detailed. Donghuang Baiji said coldly. What is going on? First it's the murderer, then it's the aristocratic clan's bloody battle, then it's the gays. Donghuang Baiji felt that her head was going to explode. If Yi Hua was able to see Donghuang Baiji's current state, he would definitely feel great. Weren't you very arrogant when you left? If you have the ability, then stay outside for your entire life. Yuan Da told Donghuang Baiji everything that happened. This caused Donghuang Baiji to be very angry. This Tang family and Bai family are really not obedient at all. I already said that private fights are not allowed, and they actually disregarded my words. At this moment, Yu Quan, who was standing at the back, cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, regarding the aristocratic clan's bloody battle, it seems like it was Tang Wushuang who sent people to the Tang family's mourning hall to create trouble, and that was why Bai Cixin brought people to attack Tang family. After hearing that, Dong Huang Baiji said gravely, Everyone, let's rest for an hour first. After an hour, we will continue discussing. Yes. In the past, Dong Huang Baiji was very decisive, but ever since she got a man, she became very indecisive. It seems like she would listen to everything that Yihua said, and she would do whatever Yihua said. Now that Yihua wasn't around anymore, everyone felt that it was strange. However, I can still look for Qingya to discuss with her. After all, such a thing has never happened before. Arriving at Dong Huang Li's courtyard, Qingya and Dong Huang Li woke up very early, and Dong Huang Li was currently wielding a sword that was as tall as a person. Mommy, Dong Huang Baiji shouted out, then pounced onto her mother's embrace and gave her mother a kiss. Dong Huang Baiji stroked onto her daughter's hair. Ali, continue to practice your sword, Mommy has something to discuss with Mommy Qing. Sigh, Mommy, you should go and look for Daddy. Daddy is very smart. He is able to solve Mommy's problem in an instant. Dong Huang Li was constantly thinking about Daddy and Mommy. Dong Huang Baiji said petulantly, All right, Ali only cares about Daddy, and doesn't even love Mommy anymore. How is that possible? Ali loves Mommy Wu. After having a warm moment with her child, Dong Huang Baiji walked to the pavilion. With a smile on her face, Qingya poured a cup of water for the Empress. What's wrong? Why do you look so gloomy this early in the morning? Dong Huang Baiji drank the cup of bejeweled jade immortal dew, then sighed and said, Something happened again last night. Dong Huang Baiji told Qingya about what happened, and after listening to Dong Huang Baiji's explanation, Qingya's brows tightly wrinkled. Qingya, do you think that Yihua is behind all of this? Dong Huang Baiji asked curiously. Qingya shook her head. I don't know either. Logically speaking, it is very normal for Tang and Bai family to fight with each other. Right now, the thing that is suspicious is that the culprit seems to have intentionally brought the 5 aristocratic families to the scene, allowing others to discover that Tang and Bai family were fighting with each other. Then, is such an action good or bad? Even if the aristocratic families don't know about it, the news would still spread today. Dong Huang Baiji voiced out the doubt that was in her heart. Qingya was also confused, then said gravely, Right now the most important thing is to calm down the situation, don't let the aristocratic families start fighting with each other. Tang and Bai family should be punished. Dong Huang Baiji thought so too. I want to go and take a look at the situation. I might be able to find some clues. Dong Huang Baiji snorted. Do you think that the culprit is Yihua? Qingya asked with a smile. Dong Huang Baiji clenched her teeth. If it is really Yihua, I will bite him to death. Baiji, isn't this a bit too light? You are only going to bite him to death? Qingya said teasingly, then took a sip of tea. What do you say then? Qingya said faintly, Make Yihua kneel on the keyboard. Chapter 369. I agree as well, Baiji. Quickly go and look for him. Dong Huang Baiji went into a daze, then dragged Qingya along. You come with me. Qingya smiled bitterly. There's no need for that. No matter what, we are sisters who have gone through thick and thin together, and furthermore, we are going to join hands to deal with Yihua. But a lot of people know me. Qingya said. Yi Shao and Chu He had seen me that night. That's true. Qingya smiled and said, Why don't I pretend to be your maid? Is that okay? I am afraid that Yihua will teach me a lesson for using his beloved as a maid. Dong Huang Baiji smiled mischievously. Qingya pinched Dong Huang Baiji. You dare to tease me? The two women immediately started messing around. Dong Huang Li, who was at the side, put down her sword and let out a breath. Lady is really childish. This is the first time we see the Empress acting like this. So it seems that she is actually not much different from us. When Voidless Realm spread out the news of the Empress going on an inspection tour, everyone went into an uproar. The last time the Empress went on an inspection tour was 100 years ago. That time, it was because of the matter of Dongfang family secretly hiding an ancient godly item. And the one who went on an inspection tour was Dong Huang Baiji's father. After 100 years, the Empress of Voidless Realm went on an inspection tour again. The entire north immediately became filled with a solemn atmosphere. Especially the family heads of Zijin City. They were all on tenterhooks, but they were also excited. Voidless Realm's Empress. My God. He had thought that he wouldn't be able to see her in his lifetime, but he never expected that he would get the chance now. At Zijin City's international airport, a Boeing 747 landed, and the passengers who were waiting for the plane stood up one after another to size up the plane. Because there were strange and lifelike divine beasts painted on the body of the plane. This is the first time I saw a plane with tattoos on it. This is too strange. However, the plane drove towards a private airport, and black vehicles drove into the airport one after another. Everyone was discussing, just what kind of big shot is this? Could it be that he is the president of some country? Right now, Qingya was disguised as Donghuang Baiji's maid, and her appearance was completely changed. No one was able to see through her disguise. Looking at the 20-plus phantom cars that were parked at the side, Qingya smiled and said, Baiji, isn't this a little too big? Qingya, this kind of formation isn't too big. After all, I am the Empress. How can I not have a formation? Donghuang Baiji smiled lightly. Donghuang Baiji was no longer wearing her imperial robe and had changed into a very professional CEO outfit. Qingya was just like a little secretary, and she was actually wearing black stockings. This was the temptation of black silk that Yihua yearned for even in his dreams. It was a pity that Yihua would not be able to see it. Qingya nodded her head. As a big shot, I must definitely have an imposing manner when I go out. Thinking back then, Yihua's imposing manner when he went out was definitely very impressive, and the title of Act Tough King reverberated like thunder. The first ones to walk down from the stairs were Voidless Realms guards, and the guards who were dressed in black suits were standing guard at the side. After them were Yuan Da and the others. Today it could be said that the entire Voidless Realm had moved out. The scale was unprecedented. When Donghuang Baiji appeared at the entrance of the passenger plane, everyone felt a sense of pressure. This woman's aura is so powerful. Qingya was standing behind Donghuang Baiji, playing the role of a secretary. Qingya was even wearing a pair of glasses. If Yihua were to see Qingya's current appearance, he would definitely not be able to hold himself back. Sometimes Lai Gu would say a lot of things. A woman must be treated, and only when she becomes obedient will she know how powerful you are. Yu Quan, go and inform the people from the aristocratic families. The people from the aristocratic families have to have a good talk with them today. Donghuang Baiji decided. I must definitely deal with this matter properly. If not, these problems will only appear one after another. Yu Quan bowed and said, Your Majesty, be at ease. In order to not delay Your Majesty's time, I have already arranged everything. Everyone is currently waiting for Your Majesty's appearance. All right, let's set off then. Yes. The convoy set off towards Zijin International Hotel, which was Guantong's territory. While driving, the passers-by looked at the convoy curiously. There was no lack of nouveau riche in Zijin City, but this kind of formation was still very rare. Half an hour later, the convoy stopped at the entrance of Zijin International Hotel. The doorman immediately ran over to open the door, but he was stopped by Voidless Realm's Imperial Guard. How can you open the Empress's door? Yuan Da hurriedly ran over and opened the door. Donghuang Baiji got off the car and sized up the Empress. Qingya got off the car as well. Donghuang Baiji didn't disguise her beauty. Her stunning appearance caused people to be dumbstruck, and the pressure that was being emitted from her body caused people to not dare to look straight at her. Let's go. No one came to welcome them, because today, they weren't here to have a heart-to-heart talk, they were here to judge a case. Yu Quan asked everyone to wait at the top floor. The group of people took the elevator and arrived at the top floor. The top floor was originally a banquet area, where some high-class banquets were held. But now, all of the luxurious facilities had been moved away, and there was only a throne placed on the rostrum, which gave off a solemn atmosphere. And below the throne stood around 100 people, and all of them were the family heads of Zijin City, as well as the people from the surrounding cities. Of course, there were also the 5 aristocratic families. Everyone didn't dare to whisper or discuss with each other, and their faces were all calm. Of course, there were also some who were excited. After all, they were going to be able to see the Empress soon. However, to Tang family and Bai family, today was the day where their family's fate would be decided. In actuality, they could already guess the result. Xiao Yi was very nervous as well. He had participated in the crime yesterday, and he didn't know what kind of punishment he would receive. If he killed the person, he would have to accept the punishment. If he didn't kill the person, he would have to accept the punishment as well. I am not willing to accept this. Tang Wushuang was still wearing a suit today, and a white ribbon was tied on his head. No matter what, I must get justice for my beloved wife today. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao were naturally present as well. The husband and wife didn't have much fear. Since we have already done it, then we should be prepared to accept the punishment. The 5 family heads stood at the front of the group. Guan Tong lost his beloved son yesterday, and his hair actually grew white. From this, it could be seen just how sad and indignant he was. Furthermore, he had also become skinny. When he looked at the other 4 family heads, his gaze was definitely not friendly. Furthermore, under anger, Guan Tong did the same thing as Bai Cixin. Chen Xuanzong was also present at the scene. Last night, he didn't know that something happened, and he only heard about it this morning. The reason why his mood was so good was because Xiao Yi was also present at the scene. When the Empress arrives, this Xiao Yi will definitely not be able to bear the consequences. Even the heavens are helping me. Within the crowd, there was a stranger that everyone didn't recognize. Perhaps, he isn't from Zijin City, and thus, no one thought too much about it. After all, the reason why they came here today was to see the Empress. However, this stranger was precisely Yi Hua. From Zhu Tian's ears, he heard that Baiji was coming to uphold justice. As a husband, he naturally had to come and see his wife's performance. Perhaps, he might even be able to swindle her a bit. Who asked you all to act cool? Hearing the sound of the elevator door, Yi Hua immediately looked towards the elevator door. Chapter 370. The sound of high heels suddenly rang out and echoed within the spacious banquet hall. Although it was just a simple sound, it deeply entered everyone's heart, as if that foot was stepping on everyone's head. Just this sound alone made everyone prostrate themselves in admiration. As expected of Voidless Realm's Empress, we can only kneel and lick her. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. So this Baiji also likes to act cool. I like women who act cool. After you all admit defeat, I will let you all live a life where you can't leave my bed. Dong Huang Baiji's figure gradually appeared in everyone's line of sight, and all of the family heads couldn't help but gasp. Is this a fairy? No, no, no. Saying that she is a fairy is blasphemy to the Empress. The Empress's appearance can no longer be described with words. The word, beautiful, is an insult to the Empress. At this moment, some of the family heads couldn't help but think of that woman from the auction. Her beauty is definitely comparable to the Empress. Dong Huang Baiji swept her cold gaze across everyone, and everyone immediately lowered their heads, not daring to look straight at her. The Empress has arrived. Everyone squatted down and shouted, "Eternal glory to the Empress." Yi Hua, who was within the crowd, had no choice but to squat down. If not, they would definitely look down on him. "Get up," Dong Huang Baiji said faintly. Yi Hua stood up and looked at the woman beside Dong Huang Baiji. Why does she look so familiar? A red light flashed past Yi Hua's eyes. So it's my Qingya. I told you to wear stockings, but you refused to wear them even if I beat you to death. I am not by your side, but you are still wearing stockings in front of so many people. I will remember this, and in the future, I will put stockings on your head. Why does it feel so weird to put stockings on your head? Dong Huang Baiji walked onto the rostrum and sat on the throne. All of the imperial guards stood guard around her, while Yuan Da and the others stood 5 meters away from Dong Huang Baiji to prevent anyone from sneak attacking her. After all, if she is not in Voidless Realm, the Empress's life will be threatened. Xiao Yi felt that the Empress in front of him was very beautiful. Even when he was an immortal emperor, he had never seen such a beautiful woman before. Such a beauty is very rare in the world. If I am able to bring her into my room, it would truly be a wonderful thing. However, I only dare to think about it in my heart. Chen Xuanzong sighed. However, his heart could no longer contain any other women. Only Qingya existed in his heart. Right now, Tang Wushuang didn't have the mood to look at the Empress's appearance. He only wanted to seek justice for his beloved wife. Wang Debao couldn't help but compare the Empress with his beloved wife. Although the Empress is prettier than my wife has unlocked a lot of difficult moves. So, my wife is still the best. If Yi Hua were to find out about this, he would definitely feel disdain. I will allow them to completely unlock any technique, and then give me the most comfortable enjoyment. Actually, this was also the first time that the clan heads of the 5 great clans had seen the Empress in all her glory. They felt that she was much more beautiful than in the video. Back then, when Qing Ye and Donghuang Baiji were fighting against Zhu Tian, someone took a video and uploaded it onto the cultivation forum, causing a huge sensation. It was just that Qing Ye was wearing a set of ancient godly armor that covered a wide area, so her appearance could not be seen clearly. I have come here today to settle the matter that has happened over the past few days. Donghuang Baiji's opening speech was very simple and concise, and she did not ask about Donghuang Baiji's well-being at all. This made Yi Hua acknowledge that instead of making any opening speech, it would be better to directly get to the point. Everyone present shouted out, "We respectfully obey my Empress's sacred words." Yi Hua suddenly had a bold idea. He immediately rushed forward, pressed the Empress under his body, and kissed her madly. "I want to let these people know that the Empress is my woman. However, I will first endure it for now. I will let this group of salted fishes know about it in the future." Donghuang Baiji waved her hand, and Yu Quan took a step forward and shouted out, "Bai Cixin, Wang Debao, Xiaoyi, Tang Wushuang." Along with Yu Quan's shout, 4 people slowly walked out from the crowd and stood in the middle of the crowd. "Still not kneeling down," Yu Quan shouted out. Tang Wushuang kneeled down very decisively. The other 3 people also slowly kneeled down. Under the enormous machine that was Voidless Realm, they could only submit, nothing else. Donghuang Baiji said faintly, "I will give each of you a chance to explain yourselves." The 4 people below lowered their heads and seemed to be thinking about how to explain themselves. Everyone was looking at them, and they knew that today's matter would definitely not be settled so easily. Since the Empress asked you all to explain yourselves, you all just have to explain yourselves. Yu Quan shouted out coldly. The consequences of pretending to be mute were even more severe. Tang Wushuang was the first to speak, but when he spoke, everyone was shocked. This was clearly a woman. Thinking back then, Tang Wushuang was also a graceful and elegant young man, and could be said to be a young man with a purple gold jade face. I didn't expect that today, Tang Wushuang would be like this. This really makes people sigh endlessly. "Your Majesty, Bai Cixin is cruel and merciless. She broke into the Tang residence in the middle of the night and killed our disciples. He didn't even let my beloved wife off, and Wang Debao and Xiao Yi, these 2 accomplices. I hope the Empress will uphold justice for me. Even if I, Tang Wushuang, am guilty, what did my wife do wrong?" Bai Cixin snorted coldly. "Your wife is not wrong. What did my little brother do wrong? When you killed my brother, you never thought that this day would come. Bai Cixin, your brother committed suicide by jumping off a building. What does that have to do with me? My wife was killed by you. Many people can prove that." Right now, both of Tang Wushuang's eyes were completely red, and even his voice had become hoarse. It could be seen how big of a blow his beloved wife's death was to him. "If you didn't insult my younger brother, would my younger brother commit suicide? You are twisting words and forcing logic." "Enough!" Donghuang Baiji shouted out coldly. Tang Wushuang and Bai Cixin lowered their heads. "Have you all forgotten about my Voidless Realm's command? Or are you all treating my Voidless Realm's words as farts?" Donghuang Baiji released out the power of her bloodline, instantly intimidating everyone. Even the family heads of the 5 influential families were trembling in fear, let alone the other small families. Yi Hua admired Baiji's methods very much. Sometimes, one should use force to suppress others. Baiji could be considered to have passed the test, and Qingye didn't give any evaluation. "We don't dare," the 4 people said in unison. Donghuang Baiji snorted coldly and gradually released out her killing intent. "Don't dare? But you all dare." "Your Majesty, it was Tang Wushuang who provoked us first," Bai Cixin hurriedly explained. Tang Wushuang said, "Your Majesty, although I am in the wrong, he killed my brother-in-law and my beloved wife, just because he provoked us? He is just looking for an excuse." Transvestite Tang, did you eat **tea this morning? Your mouth stinks. Wang Debao couldn't help but shout it out. Yu Quan shouted out gravely, "Wang Debao, pay attention to your words. Don't discuss the Honorable Your Majesty." "Yes, yes." Wang Debao panicked. "Just now, I was just being straightforward." Chapter 371. Xiao Yi. What is your motive? Dong Huangbaiji suddenly asked Xiao Yi. In actuality, this was what Qingye wanted to ask. This Xiao Yi's wife was hounded to death by Yi Hua's subordinates, and right now, he was helping someone else to kill Tang Wushuang's wife. What does this count as? Xiao Yi's behavior made Qingye a bit disappointed. To quarrel with her husband just because of him, it doesn't seem to be worth it. If Yi Hua were to know what Qingye was thinking, he would definitely scold her. Now that he knew he was wrong, what had he done back then? I am your husband. Even if I become the enemy of everyone, you have to stand behind me and support me silently. Xiao Yi took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Tang Wushuang tried to kill me back then, so I want to kill him. Yet another person who does not place this empress in his eyes. Dong Huangbaiji said coldly. Xiao Yi quickly explained, Your Majesty, Xiao Yi wouldn't dare, but this is a rare opportunity, so I have to gamble. Then, how did you feel when you saw an innocent woman die? Dong Huangbaiji asked faintly. In actuality, this was the question that Qingye wanted to know. Yi Hua, who was within the crowd, naturally knew that Xiao Yi was not a good person. Qingye, you are really stupid. Xiao Yi's expression slightly changed. Quan Anrong's death reminded him of his wife, but for the future of the Xiao family, he had to do this. Xiao Yi calmly said, I don't feel anything. Qingye, who was standing at the back, revealed a disappointed expression. Xiao Yi's way of doing things was no different from Yi Hua's subordinates, killing someone else's woman. I suddenly feel that sometimes, Yi Hua is right. Perhaps it was really his fault. Dong Huangbaiji nodded her head. Then let Yu Quan announce their punishment. Yu Quan said to the four of them, I will now carry out your punishment, and you can only accept it. Otherwise, bear the consequences. Yes. The four of them kowtowed and listened to the coming punishment. Yu Quan said faintly, Tang family and Bai family went against Voidless Realm's order and had a bloodbath in private. From now on, you are not allowed to run for the position of an aristocratic family. The scene was in an uproar. The consequences of a fight were so serious. This was too exaggerated. Of course, Dong Huangbaiji had to punish Voidless Realm severely. This matter was related to Voidless Realm's face, and what they did was equivalent to slapping Voidless Realm's face. How could Dong Huangbaiji possibly let Voidless Realm off lightly? Bai Cixin and Tang Wushuang thought that this was the only punishment, and they let out a sigh of relief, then said in unison, Thank you, Your Majesty, for not killing us. Yu Quan shouted, I haven't finished yet. This is the first crime. Everyone, Bai Cixin and Tang Wushuang hurriedly lowered their heads. Through Voidless Realm's evaluation, the three family heads are not suitable to control ancient godly items. In order to avoid harming commoners, the three family heads' ancient godly items will be taken back. Yu Quan's following words caused everyone to be shocked. Take back the ancient godly item. This was too overbearing, too unreasonable. After all, someone had risked his life to obtain this ancient godly item. How could he just hand it over just like that? Everyone was watching the movements of the three family heads. Xiao Yi couldn't believe it. He had to take back his Shenyuan sword just because he was involved in the aristocratic family competition. They were simply robbers. This was clearly an excuse. I, Xiao Yi, am not convinced. Bai Cixin slowly stretched out her palm, and the 9-story demon tower appeared in her hand. Black fog immediately swirled around it. Yu Quan opened his palm, and the 9-story demon tower landed on Yu Quan's hand. Although it was just a blink of an eye, this caused everyone to become gloomy. They had experienced the power of Voidless Realm. If I tell you to hand over the ancient godly item, you have to hand it over. Bai Cixin's choice was very wise. Tang Wushuang. Yu Quan shouted. Tang Wushuang explained, during the fight yesterday, I lost my ancient godly item. Lost? Everyone present didn't believe it. Tang Wushuang definitely hid it. Didn't you hug such an important thing to sleep with, and you actually lost it? Who are you trying to bluff? Tang Wushuang. If you dare to bluff the Empress again, everyone in your Tang family will have to die. Yu Quan let out a murderous aura. This Tang Wushuang is too unreasonable. If I hand over the ancient godly item right now, I will still be able to keep my life. Tang Wushuang was greatly startled and said in fright, Your Majesty, this lowly one doesn't dare to speak a single lie. Yesterday, my beloved wife was injured, and at that time, my mind wasn't clear. I don't know where the ancient godly item went, Your Majesty. Please believe in my words. Bai Cixin snorted. Your Majesty, you mustn't believe in Tang Wushuang's words, he just wanted to keep it for himself. Bai Cixin. Don't spout nonsense. You know what you are doing. Bai Cixin sneered. Yu Quan looked towards Dong Huang Baiji. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly, Tang Wushuang, if I find out that you are lying, I will definitely not forgive you. A mirror could be seen appearing in Dong Huang Baiji's hand. Everyone was puzzled. Dong Huang Baiji said coldly, This is an ancient godly item, mirror of truth. It is able to display the image in one's mind. Tang Wushuang, this is the last time I am asking you. If I find out that you are lying, this is a crime worthy of extermination. Tang Wushuang doesn't dare to lie to Your Majesty. Tang Wushuang's insistence made everyone believe him. At this moment, only an idiot would deny it. All right. Along with Dong Huang Baiji raising her hand, the mirror of truth appeared in front of Tang Wushuang. Tang Wushuang looked at himself in the mirror, then slowly closed his eyes and searched for the memory of last night. As expected, an image appeared in the mirror. When Tang Wushuang saw that his beloved wife was injured, he hurriedly ran over. The ancient godly item in his hand indeed fell onto the ground, then mysteriously disappeared. The image disappeared. Dong Huang Baiji kept the mirror of truth. This Tang Wushuang didn't lie. But where did the ancient godly item go? This is too strange. Xiaoyi! Yu Quan shouted out towards the depressed Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi was struggling in his heart. If he were to hand over Shen Yuan's sword, Xiao family's strength would definitely suffer a great loss. Furthermore, Xiao family's strength would also stop at the level of a family. Voidless Realm is trying to cut off all of my thoughts. Yu Quan shouted out gravely once again. Xiaoyi! Xiaoyi slowly raised his head and asked, Your Majesty, Shen Yuan's sword is mine. Before Xiaoyi could finish speaking, Yu Quan interrupted him, Hand over Shen Yuan's sword. The atmosphere of the scene immediately became depressed. Xiao Yi's face alternated between white and red, and a struggle could be seen on his face. Since Tang family and Bai family's ancient godly item has already been taken away, the accomplice's ancient godly item must definitely be taken back. This was also Dong Huang Baiji's intention. In the end, they only have themselves to blame. Yi Hua, who was within the crowd, felt that there was nothing wrong with this kind of punishment. However, this punishment was still too light. What is the point of keeping a subordinate who doesn't obey orders? Because sooner or later, that subordinate will definitely rebel against you. After all, he once didn't put you in his eyes. Especially the current Xiao Yi. Although he was struggling in his heart, but thinking about it carefully, what was he struggling for? He was struggling to obey Voidless Realm. Chapter 372. Looking at Tang Wushuang, he immediately handed over the sword. It's just that, Xiao Yi regarded Shen Yuan's sword too seriously. Back then, even though the situation was so urgent, Xiao Yi still did not hand over Shen Yuan's sword, and because of this, he even fell out with Tang Wushuang. Shen Yuan's sword was Xiao Yi, and asking Xiao Yi to hand over Shen Yuan's sword was equivalent to handing over his soul. If a person were to even sell his own soul, could he still be considered a complete person? Everyone looked at Xiao Yi. Could it be that this person is planning to fight against Voidless Realm with his own strength? If that's the case, I am thinking too much. Xiao Yi could be heard saying softly, I am killing for the prosperity of my family. Is there anything wrong with that? Everyone was indeed very shocked. This is questioning Voidless Realm's prestige. If Xiao Yi doesn't shed a layer of skin and go out, no one will believe it. Yuanda shouted out angrily, Impudent! To actually dare to question the Empress's order. Did I say anything wrong? This Shen Yuan sword is something that I, Xiao Yi, exchanged with my life, and you, Voidless Realm, want me to hand it over with just a single sentence. I refuse to accept this. Xiao Yi immediately took out Shen Yuan's sword. This action caused everyone to take a step back and look at Xiao Yi, who had lost his rationality vigilantly. To actually take out a weapon in front of the Empress. Yi Hua rejoiced that he fired Xiao Yi. Having a servant like Xiao Yi is just a loss of face. Dong Huang Baiji was much stronger than Xiao Yi, let alone Qing Ya. A green rope suddenly appeared and hooked around Xiao Yi. Ah! Xiao Yi let out a painful scream, and the Shenyuan sword in his hand fell onto the ground. At this moment, all of the family heads looked at Shenyuan's sword that was on the ground. If I were to hold on to Shenyuan's sword, how great would that be? However, they were just thinking about it. Even if I have the life to hold on to it, I won't be able to enjoy it. Yu Quan stretched out his palm and kept Shenyuan's sword. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly, Xiao family's Xiao Yi has no respect for this empress and even challenged my dignity. Remove the title of your family and cripple all of your cultivation. Removing the title of his family was already cruel, but to cripple all of his cultivation, what was the difference between this and killing him? For powerful people, losing their power was more painful than killing them. It was like a billionaire going bankrupt overnight. Those who could not bear it would collapse immediately. And Xiao Yi was still thinking about increasing his cultivation so that he could revive his wife. Hearing Voidless Realm's punishment, Xiao Yi struggled and shouted out, I refuse to accept this. You have no right to cripple me. Dong Huang Baiji snorted coldly. In the northern cultivation world, I, the Empress, am the one with the highest authority, and my words are the law. I don't need to explain anything to anyone. Looking at Dong Huang Baiji's cold and arrogant expression, Yihua suddenly felt like teasing Dong Huang Baiji. Dong Huang Baiji is even more pretentious than me. At the same time, Dong Huang Baiji was also telling everyone that they better behave themselves. Voidless Realm's dignity must not be trampled on by anyone. Qingya, who was at the back, didn't say anything to stop him. No. Xiao Yi cried out. Xiao Yi regretted telling Qingya those things, and he regretted leaving them. If those things didn't happen, they would definitely help him now. Then he could keep the Shenyuan sword. How regretful. These were all stupid decisions. It wasn't shameful to ride on someone's coattails. What was shameful was that they still had to maintain their dignity after doing so. Dong Huang Baiji slapped her palm towards the bound Xiao Yi, and her palm landed solidly onto Xiao Yi's chest. Puff! Xiao Yi's eyes went wide and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. The spiritual energy in his body had been scattered. It was useless to gather it again. Without spiritual qi, he would at most be stronger than an ordinary person. Voidless Realm is going too far. Xiao Yi was burning with rage, and he continued to anger Dong Huang Baiji. Pull him down. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly. Whether he would live or die would depend on the quality of his body. It was not impossible for a normal person like Xiao Yi to fight 100 battles, but he would lose half his life. The truth was that ordinary people had their own benefits. With the power of the Xiao clan's businesses, they could eat for dozens of lifetimes. However, this was not the life Xiao Yi wanted. Returning to the immortal Emperor realm was his goal. But now it was impossible. A few guards carried Xiao Yi to the side and pressed him down on a bench. Iron rods appeared in their hands. It was not a wooden stick. Pah! The iron rod fiercely landed on Xiao Yi's butt, instantly tearing his pants. One had to know that the executor was no ordinary person. When Xiao Yi tasted the power of the rod, he suddenly felt dizzy and couldn't breathe. And this was only the first strike. Pah! Another rod landed, and Xiao Yi coughed out a mouthful of blood. It was only 2 strikes, and Xiao Yi's eyes were already beginning to roll back. Everyone swallowed their saliva. They were all shocked by Voidless Realm's means. Yihua wanted to give extra marks to Baiji. If it was a passing mark just now, then it would be 80 marks right now. Killing the chicken to warn the monkey is indeed not bad. You did not let me dote on you in vain. Seeing Qingya, who was at the side, Yihua let out a sigh of relief. Dong Huang Baiji was the empress, and she had to do this. The situation forced her to do this, while Qingya didn't. This was the biggest difference between the two of them. If Qingya were to become the empress of Voidless Realm, her way of thinking would be different. However, who knows? Perhaps Qingya had a different style. Maybe Qingya was compassionate and used words to move Xiao Yi. Pa pa pa, the beating continued, and no one dared to beg for mercy. Xiao Yi was no longer feeling anything, and right now, he was lying on the bench like a dead person. Blood was flowing out from the corner of Xiao Yi's mouth, and a pool of blood had formed on the ground. After 100 strikes, Xiao Yi's butt was already lacerated, and it was a ghastly sight. Your Majesty, the execution is complete. The guard reported respectfully. Dong Huang Baiji said, Inform the family members to come and pick them up. Yes. Shu Nan and Yu Qi were both waiting in the side hall. The side hall was filled with the family members of the family masters. Of course, there were also some family masters who were not qualified. For example, Qing Ya's father, Qing Huaxian, was also present. He didn't come on his own, but was summoned by Yi Xiao. The guard opened the door to the side hall, and all the family members were stunned. Is Xiao Yi's family here? Come and get him. The guard shouted coldly. Shu Nan and Yu Qi had a bad feeling about this. What did he mean by take people away? They hurried to follow him. When they saw their husband being carried out, Shu Nan and Yu Qi were shocked. Last night, Xiao Yi went back and discussed with Shu Nan, but Shu Nan didn't expect the consequences to be so serious. If Xiao Yi hadn't resisted just now, he would have only lost the ancient godly item and his family's title. He would still have his strength, but unfortunately, he had courted death. Nazuono bring. Shu Nan hurriedly checked her husband's pulse. Seeing that Xiao Yi still had a trace of life left in him, Shu Nan stuffed a pill into Xiao Yi's mouth, then carried her husband and left. In actuality, what Xiao Yi felt the most fortunate about was that he had a wife like Shu Nan, who was willing to do anything for him. When the family members in the side hall saw that Xiao Yi was beaten into a dog's leash, they immediately felt that the situation wasn't good. They hoped that their husband wouldn't cause any trouble. This act-tough King Xiao Yi must have been acting tough inside. If not, how could he have ended up in such a miserable state? Chapter 373. The banquet hall was dead silent, and no one dared to even breathe loudly. Xiao Yi was one of the best in the family, and in just an instant, a ferocious dragon turned into a snake, Shen Yuan's sword was gone, and his cultivation was even crippled. This allowed everyone to witness the cold side of Voidless Realm, or rather, the iron-blooded side of the Empress. One must know that not long ago, the Empress was crowned with the title of heroine, and she disregarded everything to save the South from a crisis. This made everyone think that the Empress was a kind person, and she would definitely not kill people. However, everyone misunderstood the Empress's actions wrongly. Donghuang Baiji was not a kind person. She was just carrying the prestige of Voidless Realm on her back. This was different from Qing Ya's benevolence. In actuality, Yihua already knew about Qing Ya's benevolence. In the past, Yihua already had this kind of inclination, but he didn't take it to heart. He just treated it as pity for a nobody. However, Qing Ya actually spoke up for Xiao Yi. This made Yihua angry, really angry. The kind that can't be coaxed. Right now, Tang Wushuang, Bai Cixin, and Wang Debao were trembling with fear. They were very surprised by Xiao Yi's punishment. Even an accomplice ended up like this, and the mastermind is still being dragged out to be beheaded? Yu Quan continued to pronounce the sentence. Remove the titles of Tang family and Bai family. If you use your identity to kill people in the future, you will definitely be severely punished. Thinking back to Xiao Yi's appearance just now, the three didn't dare to resist in the slightest. Thank you, Your Majesty, for your magnanimity. We will solemnly obey Your Majesty's orders. The three hurriedly kowtowed and thanked. This made everyone exclaim in admiration. Even after being punished to such an extent, they still have to kowtow and thank. Yihua felt that he had to add another 5 points to Baiji. Not bad, not bad, not bad, not bad, not bad. If only Qing Ya was half as outstanding as Baiji, I wouldn't have to worry so much. Donghuang Baiji waved her hand and signaled the three to move to the side. Everyone sighed. The mastermind was still rational, but the accomplice was too arrogant, and he ended up being beaten up badly. However, no matter what, he was still the act-tough king. If he were to lose face in such a situation, how could he be willing to continue living in the underworld? At the very least, he should have said a few words and let everyone see the act-tough king's attitude. In the end, the Empress was not a kind person at all. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao retreated to the back of the crowd. Wang Debao held his wife's hand tightly and comforted her. Exhaustion could be seen on Bai Cixin's charming face. So many years of hard work, and in just a single sentence from Voidless Realm, all of her hard work had turned into bubbles. It had to be said that Wang Debao, this prodigal, was very lucky. At least when he was present, Xiao Yi's situation didn't happen. Wife, since there's no place for us in the north, let's go to the south. Wang Debao said in a low voice as he gently hugged his wife's waist. Bai Cixin turned around and looked at her husband. She seemed very puzzled. Wang Debao was very proud. This was the first time he saw his wife look at him like this. Honey, I've been your husband for so long. Naturally, I've learned a few tricks. Debao, thank you. Bai Cixin gently leaned into her husband's embrace. At a time like this, she could only rely on her husband. Wang Debao kissed his wife's forehead. Silly, we are husband and wife. When she heard her husband's affectionate words, Bai Cixin hugged him even tighter. Wang Debao felt that he would definitely unlock a few more difficult moves when he returned tonight. Hang upside down right now. Tang Wushuang was also thinking about going to the south to develop. After all, he couldn't stay in the north anymore. There was another person in the group who was secretly delighted, and that person was Chen Xuanzong. When he saw Xiao Yi being beaten half to death, he felt extremely refreshed in his heart, and he wished that Xiao Yi would be beaten to death. However, this wasn't enough to dispel his hatred. Back then, Xiao Yi killed his entire family, so I have to kill his entire family as well. Right now, Xiao Yi's Shenyuan sword was gone, and his cultivation was gone as well. Right now, he was just like a fish on the chopping board. Dong Huang Baiji let out a sigh of relief. This family's matter can be considered to be settled. Right now, it's time to settle the family's matter. Just as Dong Huang Baiji was about to ask, Yi Shao suddenly knelt down and said gravely, Your Majesty, my son Yi Tai has already been missing for a long time. I reckon that he has already been poisoned. Right now, the suspect is Chu family's son, Chu Bai. Chu he didn't expect that Yi Shao would actually play such a dirty trick and shouted out, Yi Shao! My son has already said it very clearly, he didn't kill him at all. Who knows if your son said anything or not? Perhaps, he might have killed my son and sage doctor and taken that beauty for himself. Bullshit. Dong Huang Baiji was bewildered. Why did something like this happen again? Speak clearly. Chu he cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, let my son speak, he will be able to speak more clearly. Approved. Qing Ya, who was at the back, knew what happened. That day, I indeed didn't kill them, and now they have gone missing again. Could it be that it's the jealous king again? The possibility of it being the jealous king is very high. That stingy fellow, he definitely hid behind me and got rid of me. Although Qing Ya didn't have any evidence, Qing Ya's intuition told her that it was definitely Yi Hua who did it. At the family area outside, the Imperial Guard appeared once again. This caused all of the women to be worried to death, and they were afraid that someone would be called to bring Chu Bai back. Chu family's Chu Bai. All of the family members were startled. I didn't expect that even the people from the aristocratic families would be called over. Something big must have definitely happened. Chu Bai kept his folding fan, took a deep breath, then followed the Imperial Guard into the banquet hall. After kneeling down in front of the Empress, Chu Bai recounted everything that had happened. Right now, we need to find those two women and have them testify against each other. Yi Shao said faintly. Chu he snorted coldly. Where are you going to find them? Although I didn't manage to find those two women, I did manage to find their father. Yi Zhao's words were practically digging his own grave. Another no. Zuono a man with a woman. Dong Huang Baiji still didn't know about what happened that day, and thus, she approved of it. The Imperial Guard went to summon people again, and the people in the family area felt that something was wrong. Qing Huaxian. There were a lot of people who didn't recognize Qing Huaxian. After all, he wasn't someone from the circle. However, right now, Qing Huaxian was very excited. He was completely unaware of what was going to happen, and he was still excited. That's me. The Empress summons me. Everyone was filled with envy. The Empress summons me, how lucky is that? Carrying along a nervous yet excited mood, Qing Huaxian followed behind the Imperial Guard. He is obviously a big boss, but right now, he is acting like a young man who has never seen the world. When he walked into the banquet hall, Qing Huaxian swallowed his saliva. This scene is too big. Those family heads that I normally wouldn't be able to see are all standing at the side and looking at me. And the family head that is standing at the very front. Oh my God. My luck is really too good. And the woman on the rostrum, oh my God, she is so beautiful, she is so imposing. When Qing Ya heard that Yi Shao was going to call her father, her expression immediately became bad, and when she saw her father walking in, she didn't know what to say. Chapter 374. But because of what happened that day, he actually called his father over. It was really hateful. Qing Huaxian could be seen trembling with fear as he stood in the middle, curiously observing. Qing Ye hurriedly told Dong Huang Baiji about Qing Huaxuan's identity. After knowing that the man in front of her was Qing Ye's father, Dong Huang Baiji expressed that she understood. "Why aren't you paying your respects after seeing the Empress?" Yu Quan said indifferently. Although he spoke very calmly, there was still a wave of pressure that swept over, causing Qing Huaxian to feel even more pressure. "Forget it," Dong Huang Baiji said faintly. There was an uproar. They didn't know why the Empress would let it go. However, Qing Huaxian did not think like that. The person in front of him is the Empress. He definitely has to kneel down. He knelt with a thud. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Dong Huang Baiji felt helpless. "Qing Ye, your father is too radical." Qing Ye knew that her father wanted to curry favor with Dong Huang Baiji. "All right, get up and tell me what you know." Qing Huaxian told the story of how Sage Doctor came to their house that night, and then brought his 2 daughters out of the house. In the end, Chu Bai sent his 2 daughters home. "Where are your 2 daughters now?" Yi Xiao asked. Of course Qing Huaxian knew about it. In that leisure bar in Long An City. However, he was interrupted by Dong Huang Baiji. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly, "I understand, you can leave now." Yi Xiao said in a deep voice, "But we haven't asked clearly yet." Qing Huaxian seemed to have felt that his daughter had gotten into trouble, and he hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed. "Your Majesty, please spare my life. Although my daughter is naughty, she is not to the extent of getting into trouble. There must definitely be some misunderstanding." Looking at her father's sudden action, Qing Ye was filled with guilt. All these years, she didn't like her father marrying 2 women, and felt that it was unfair to her mother. However, seeing how her father was acting, Qing Ye felt that she had misunderstood her father. Although her father was a bit snobbish, deep down in his bones, he still cared about her and her sister. "All right, this Empress understands. You can leave first," Dong Huang Baiji said again. As for Qing Huaxian, he explained while retreating, saying that his daughter would not be a murderer, and even if she had killed someone, it would be because he, as a father, did not discipline his daughter well, and he was willing to take the blame for his daughter. As a father, Qing Huaxian received everyone's affirmation. When Dong Huang Baiji heard the news that Qing Ye sent over, she was a bit surprised. However, she still said, "Yi Xiao, since you want to find those 2 women so badly, this Empress will fulfill your wish. One of them is here." Yi Xiao was overjoyed. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Everyone was waiting for the Empress to speak, but the female attendant behind her took a step forward. His appearance slowly changed, and when his true appearance was revealed, everyone present was dumbfounded. Chen Xuanzong felt as if he was struck by lightning. Qing Ye had actually become the Empress's maid. How is this possible? That Long Outyen is even more unworthy of Qing Ye. When these 2 women stood together, even the sun and moon would have to hide. The corner of Yi Zhao's mouth twitched a bit. This woman was actually the Empress's personal maid. Looking at the current situation, many people understood. No wonder those people were so respectful during the auction. So this woman had the support of the Empress behind her. On the day of the auction, Yu Quan wanted to sit beside this woman. It turned out that they already knew each other. When Bai Cixin saw Qing Ye, she seemed to have thought of the owner of the bar. "This time, when I return to the south, I should pay a visit to the owner of the bar." Yi Zhao's face sunk. "I brought the Empress's personal maid's father over to threaten you." "Seriously?" "However, this can't be counted as a threat, it was just a process of questioning, and I didn't use any torture. Fortunately, the Empress came over today, if not, if I were to use torture I would really be finished." However, on the day of the auction, why did this female attendant appear at the scene? Could it be that she was sent over by the Empress to probe? Or could it be that she was sent over by the Empress to investigate something? Qing Ye's appearance made everyone believe Chu Bai's words. After all, she was the Empress's maid, and her strength was definitely not ordinary. It was normal for her to be able to defeat Yi Tai and Song Huang. And with the Empress vouching for her, the 2 people who disappeared definitely had other reasons. However, everyone didn't know that the murderer was in cahoots with them. Right now, it was the husband who killed the murderer, and they were the ones who washed their butts. The other family heads also knew that this matter wasn't simple. The Empress actually sent a female attendant to probe. What is the meaning of this? Yi Xiao, my people naturally wouldn't kill your son. You still need to investigate this matter. Dong Huang Baiji said gravely. Yi Xiao didn't dare to speak too much. What the Empress said is extremely true. I was thinking too much. Chu Bai was also very surprised. I didn't expect that Qing Ya was actually the Empress's maid. After today, this Qing family is going to become popular. Qing Huaxian was indeed popular, and it was so popular that Qing Huaxian was baffled. Those family heads who couldn't meet Qing Huaxian one after another came to pay a visit to Qing Huaxian one after another. On the other hand, Tang family, Bai family, and Xiao family weren't as popular as they were back then. The world is so realistic. Don't feel despair because of the current situation. Perhaps tomorrow will be even more despairing. Seeing that Qing Ya stood out, Yi Hua gave her 2 points. Guan Tong knelt onto the ground with a plop. Empress, you have to uphold justice for me. My son was assassinated last night, and before the assassin died, he took a glance at them. He definitely didn't dare to say it out loud, but it was already very clear. Guan Tong, have you gone senile? You actually believe the words of this assassin. Duan Ho was wearing a veil today, in order to prevent her appearance from scaring the Empress. Jiang Yuanzhou said faintly, that's right, perhaps, it was someone else who tried to sow discord between us. It was definitely you, Jiang Yuanzhou. Guan Tong suddenly pointed at Jiang Yuanzhou and shouted out, looking at Jiang Yuanzhou as if saying, you are the assassin, I have already seen through you. Jiang Yuanzhou was also angered to the point that he glared at Guan Tong. Guan Tong, are you sick? All right, stop quarreling. Dong Huang Baiji stopped the 2 family heads from quarreling. No matter what, they are the family heads of aristocratic families, and they have to pay attention to their image. Since the Empress had spoken, everyone had to quiet down. I also know a little about what happened last night. Guan Tong, although you are feeling the pain of losing your son, you cannot determine who the assassin is just because of a glance from the assassin. You have to investigate this matter carefully. Guan Tong immediately propped himself up and shouted out, Empress, it was definitely one of the 4 of them. You definitely have a way to make them confess to their crimes. Dong Huang Baiji was clearly acting shamelessly, and this gave Dong Huang Baiji a headache. The other party's son had already died. Am I supposed to scold him? At this moment, Duan Ho suddenly said, Empress, I feel that this matter is not a small matter. Yi family's son went missing, and Guan family's son was murdered for no reason at all. Could it be that someone is plotting against the north? Even Duan Ho thought this way. Yi Hua's figure immediately appeared in Dong Huang Baiji's and Qing Ya's mind. If something bad happened, it would definitely be related to Yi Hua. Yi Hua, who was within the crowd, decided to deduct 10 points from each of them. You don't even have any evidence, and yet you are still thinking about it. You are truly stupid. That's right, a lot of things have happened recently, and although they seem to be unrelated to each other, they seem to be related to each other. Everyone, you have to raise your vigilance. Dong Huang Baiji was also unable to understand the current situation. Is it Yi Hua, or is it someone else? Should I go and ask Yi Hua? We are currently in the middle of a cold war. If anyone were to open their mouth, wouldn't that mean that they have lost? Can't you just let me have some peace? Qing Ya wrinkled her brows. Why do I feel that this man looks a bit familiar? Tang Wushuang walked out from the crowd, then hurriedly kowtowed and shouted, Your Majesty, this is the ancient godly item that I lost. Dong Huang Baiji took a deep breath. This ancient godly item, where did you get it from? You guys might not believe me, but I picked it up, Absolute Heaven said calmly. Looking at those sincere eyes of his, it didn't seem like he was lying. Tang Wushuang was the first one who couldn't take it anymore. He pointed at Tang Wushuang and shouted, You are the one who picked me up. I'm sorry. I don't have the spirit of not pocketing money that I picked up, Absolute Heaven said indifferently. Tang Wushuang wasn't convinced, and she questioned with her delicate voice, You're acting shamelessly. Everyone knows that it isn't easy to obtain an ancient godly item, but in the end, it can't be that I have to return it to you after I snatch it from you? There doesn't seem to be such a rule, right? Besides, I didn't even snatch it from you. I only picked it up, that's all. Absolute Heaven's argument was indeed correct. Ancient godly items indeed had to be snatched by others, and whoever had the ability to obtain them would be able to obtain them. Tang Wushuang was very unconvinced, and he hurriedly cupped his hands towards Donghuang Baiji and said, "Your Majesty, please investigate this matter clearly. This ancient godly item was something that you wanted to keep." Tang Wushuang remained silent and waited for Donghuang Baiji's reply. His honor was waiting for the madams to make a fool of themselves, and if that didn't happen, his honor would be very disappointed. In actuality, Donghuang Baiji was discussing with Qingya whether to keep the ancient godly item or to let it go. "Qingya, what do you think?" "I don't know how to judge as well. I don't really understand the rules of your voidless realm." Donghuang Baiji was very vexed. This ancient godly item was supposed to be confiscated, but Tang Wushuang lost it, and today, someone brought it over to participate in the election. Everyone looked towards Donghuang Baiji, waiting for the Empress's final decision. Yi Hua was also watching excitedly. "This is the finale of the show. Who asked you all to be mischievous?" After a short while, Donghuang Baiji had an answer in her heart, and she said faintly, "This is the ancient godly item that I wanted to confiscate. Since you all brought it over to participate in the election, it naturally doesn't count. However, I still have to thank you all for bringing it over to the ancient godly item. I will naturally not treat you all unfairly." Donghuang Baiji's way of doing things seemed to be very clear. "Since I accepted the ancient godly item, I will be giving you face." Zhu Tian was very satisfied with his wife's answer. Zhu Tian had prepared for so long just to say this sentence. However, when Zhu Tian said this sentence, the entire place became deathly silent. This is a direct slap to the face. Donghuang Baiji's face immediately darkened, and Qingya's expression also changed. Meanwhile, when Yi Hua saw his wife's expressions, he felt great in his heart. Am I still formidable? Am I still formidable? Chapter 376. The atmosphere in the banquet was very oppressive because the Empress's slender figure was exuding a spiritual pressure, causing everyone to be unable to breathe. Zhu Tian didn't have any intention of stopping as he continued speaking. "Respected Your Majesty, could it be that Voidless Realm is intentionally suppressing Dongfang family? Or was it the Dongfang family's meritorious service? Are you trying to frame me? Ordinary families wouldn't even know about this kind of secret text, and only Voidless Realm and the 5 great families knew about this matter. So, how did this man know about it?" Donghuang Baiji immediately thought of Yi Hua, because she had already told Yi Hua about this matter. However, he looked at the girl beside him. She was also a member of the Dongfang family. Back then, she had only killed all the men. She had not killed the women or the girls. This was also the reason why Zhu Tian had to subdue Dongfang Yuer. He wanted to make Dongfang Yuer's wife seem to conform to common sense. Donghuang Baiji thought to herself, "I don't even know about the case back then, and I haven't even been born yet. After that, I only heard a little about it, but I didn't try to find out more about it. Could it be that there's really a grievance in this case?" But regardless of whether he was wronged or not, he had lost all his face today. "Bastard! Hubby, come quickly. Your wife is being bullied." If Yi Hua were to know what Donghuang Baiji was thinking right now, he would definitely feel extremely happy. "Now that you know how to look for my husband for help, I, the Supreme Overlord, am not going to help you, and I am going to let you know just how big of a mistake it is to leave me." Zhu Tian gently caressed Dongfang Yuer's cheeks, and faintly said, "My Yuer had to endure a lot of pressure. Because she was weak, she was sold into the Bai family, and lived in the abyss of suffering. Now, she has finally escaped from the abyss of suffering, but she still bears the grievances of the entire Dongfang family. Respected Empress, are you going to let the murderer go free?" This was absolute heaven's solo performance. Every word he said caused others to blush with shame. In addition to Dongfang Yuer's weak expression, everyone seemed to believe that she had been wronged. Donghuang Baiji said coldly, "I will naturally investigate this matter thoroughly. Lady Empress is extremely intelligent. I believe that not long from now, you will be able to clear Dongfang family's name." Zhu Tian's words caused Donghuang Baiji to be very angry, but at the same time, there was nothing she could do. Chu He suddenly shouted, "What do you mean innocent or not? Don't try to confuse the Empress here." "Your Majesty, this man's background is unknown," Duan Ho said. Zhu Tian said indifferently, "Respected Empress, I am also the son-in-law of the Guan family. Guantong was speechless. The other 4 patriarchs looked at Guantong in unison, as if asking, "Was he sent by you? You actually broke the agreement years ago just for the death of a son." The 4 family heads were furious. This Guantong wanted his son-in-law to bring up the past again. This was revenge. "Guantong, is he your son-in-law?" Dong Huang Baiji asked. Guantong stammered and then said, "He's my daughter's boyfriend." Zhu Tian said softly, "When Yan Xian has my child, he will naturally be my son-in-law." Everyone. Too shameless. He had never seen such a shameless person, using a child to kidnap the daughter of an aristocratic family. Even Dong Huang Baiji thought that this man came here under Guantong's orders. Zhu Tian let out a sigh of relief. This ancient godly item originally belonged to the Dongfang family, and now that it has fallen into the hands of the Dongfang family's descendant, it seems to be perfectly justifiable. He should be able to participate in the election, right? Forcing me to abdicate. Yi Hua was very satisfied with Zhu Tian's performance. Dong Huang Baiji was quite angered today. If I don't agree to it, Voidless Realm will become an evil power that bullies the weak, and if I agree to it, I won't have any face left. That would be equivalent to slapping my face. However, compared to Voidless Realm's authority, I still have to throw away my face. Dong Huang Baiji looked towards Zhu Tian coldly and said, "This girl is going to participate in the election?" "Respected Your Majesty, of course. She will be the one to participate in the election." Zhu Tian gave Dong Huang Baiji enough face, causing Dong Huang Baiji to feel slightly more comfortable. Yi Hua saw that the corner of Baiji's mouth was twitching, and he nearly laughed out loud. Dong Huang Baiji said gravely, "All right. I will make an exception this once and allow her to participate in the election." Everyone who was present inhaled a mouthful of cold air. I didn't expect that such a turn of events would occur today. Voidless Realm abolished the qualifications of 2 candidates, and in the end, 1 more candidate was accepted. Furthermore, the person who accepted the election was an ancient godly item that was lost. This bespectacled man sure is smart. He actually made the Empress unable to refute him. Tang Wushuang didn't expect that things would turn out like this. Bai Cixin also didn't expect that things would turn out like this. That day, she was clearly going to sit on the seat of an aristocratic family. But her plans were disrupted by Tang Wushuang. And today, this person appeared. I feel like the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. What a scheming man. Zhu Tian cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty is wise, this humble one admires you. Can you make an announcement now?" Announcement? Everyone completely didn't understand what Zhu Tian was talking about. Yu Quan said gravely, "To participate in the election of an aristocratic family, one has to go through an evaluation of strength and assets." Zhu Tian pushed Dongfang Yuer to the front of him and said, "Your Majesty, she is just an ordinary person, and she has an ordinary bank card with her. In the bank card, there are a few thousand kuai that she earned from working. This is all of the assets that she has. Furthermore, she doesn't have any other competitors." Everyone's heart trembled. What this man said is true. Tang family and Bai family have been abolished, and Shao Yi is the same as well. All of the competitors are gone. So who else is there left to participate in the election? Good. You are very good. Dong Huang Baiji was really angered by Zhu Tian. Although there isn't any evidence, Dong Huang Baiji feels that Zhu Tian is definitely one of Yi Hua's people. Yi Hua. No matter if he is one of your people or not, you still have to take the blame. Zhu Tian is completely unreasonable. However, a woman's characteristic is that they are unreasonable. This is where Yi Hua miscalculated. "Thank you, Your Majesty, for your praise. I don't deserve it." Dong Huang Baiji signaled Yu Quan to announce it. Yu Quan was also very puzzled, but he had no choice but to announce it. "Dongfang Yuer. Listen up." Yu Quan shouted. Zhu Tian said in a low voice, "You are go." Zhu Tian, thank you. Dongfang Yuer was very moved. This was a man who truly cared about her. Zhu Tian said in a low voice, "No need to thank me. I will definitely bully you when we get back tonight." Dongfang Yuan'er's face turned red as she hurriedly walked forward. Yu Quan shouted, "From today onwards, the Dongfang family will become the 6th family. Patriarch Dongfang Yuer. Enjoy all the privileges of the aristocratic families." One sentence was heaven, and one sentence was earth. He had performed very well today. Dongfang Yuan Air stretched out her hands, and the ancient divine weapon-piercing tomb slowly floated into her hands. As for Donghuang Baiji, she didn't want to stay here any longer, and she said coldly, "Return." Qingye took a look at this junior sister. This is also good. In the future, no one will bully her anymore. He was completely unaware that Dongfang Yuan was being bullied by absolute heaven every single day. And when Dongfang Yuan saw her senior sister, she wanted to say a few words to her, but she didn't dare to and just watched them leave. Dongfang Yuan became the sixth family in the north. Although she didn't have much strength, she still had all the rights that an aristocratic family should have. Many family heads came over to fawn on her, and Zhu Tian acted as her guardian. After all, Dongfang Yuan was pure and kind, and it was very easy for her to be deceived by others. For example, she was deceived by me. What a silly girl. After watching a good show today, Yihua felt very comfortable. Thus he returned home. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji didn't take any transportation back, because they weren't in the mood to do so. After returning back to Voidless Realm's bedroom, Donghuang Baiji began smashing things in her room, while Qingye helplessly looked at her from the side. Bastard, shameless bastard. I have lost all of my face today. Donghuang Baiji lost her temper, and all of the first-rate spirit tools were turned into dregs. Chapter 377. Qingye, if today's trap was set up by Yihua, we would have lost by a notch. Qingye laughed lightly. If my guess isn't wrong, this is a trap set up by Yihua. However, this time around, he is very smart, and we don't have any evidence to prove it. Bastard! Yihua, this damned Yihua actually tricked his wife. Ah! Donghuang Baiji was about to go crazy from anger. This is the first time I've heard of a husband setting up a trap for his wife. Alright, we have to think of a way to turn the tables. Qingye wouldn't admit defeat so easily. Although the two wives had no evidence, a woman's sixth sense told them that it was their husband who was messing around behind the scenes. Everything happened when they ran away from home. How could it be so coincidental? Anyway, it was just one sentence. I don't care. It's Yihua. Donghuang Baiji gradually calmed down, and in her heart, the flames of victory were ignited. I will definitely not let Yihua look down on me. Firstly, we need to ascertain the reason why Yihua did all those things. Qingye said faintly while sitting on a jade chair at the side. The maids were carrying the freshest tea and fruits over to Qingye. Donghuang Baiji snorted. Isn't it because you want us to return? This is only one of the reasons. What he did today was to make us lose face and strike at our confidence so that we would lower our heads and ask him for help. Qingye's guess was really direct and very accurate. Donghuang Baiji remembered that this was what she was thinking back then. What a shame. I nearly fell for my husband's tricks. Then, what is he planning to do next? Donghuang Baiji let out a breath. After taking a sip of the tea, she felt much more comfortable. Qingye said gravely, if my guess is correct, Yihua wants to overthrow the other 5 great families. Ah, isn't he just messing around? Donghuang Baiji immediately stood up in excitement. After all, this person could be counted as her subordinate. Qingye shook her head. From what happened with Dongfang family, it can be seen that Yihua is trying to help Dongfang family clear their grievances. Furthermore, Yihua must have definitely found some sort of clue. Today, the expressions of the 5 family heads who were present at the scene also seemed to be a bit strange. Donghuang Baiji asked confusedly, Qingye, are you saying that all 5 aristocratic families are participating in this? Yihua wants to use this matter to get rid of the 5 aristocratic families? Qingye nodded her head. But why did he do that? Donghuang Baiji was confused. Isn't he just making things difficult for you and me? That day, both of us were speaking up for the outsiders, and right now, he is trying his best to mess with those people, and wants us to go and help them. Qingye laughed bitterly. Only a child would do such a thing. Yihua is a child that hasn't grown up yet. If we help them and fail, Yihua will be able to see us as a joke. Qingye nodded her head. Bastard! I'll strangle him to death right now. Alright, Yihua didn't do anything much either. He is just helping a weak lady. We mustn't panic. Qingye said with a warm smile. In actuality, Yi Hua's original intention for this entire matter was still good, which was to help others clear their grievances. Yi Hua didn't know that his lovely wife could be evaluated in such a way. I, the Supreme Overlord, am only making use of you. You are thinking too much. Then how can we turn defeat into victory and stop it? On the contrary, we have to investigate the truth of this matter before Yi Hua. We cannot let Yi Hua's people wash away this injustice. No matter what, Qingye was still a CEO, and she had played in business wars before, thus she knew a bit about this matter. Right now, what they had to do was to settle this matter before Yi Hua. If that were to happen, Yi Hua's plan would be ruined. That was indeed the case. If Yi Hua didn't get the initiative this time, then Voidless Realm couldn't be said to be incompetent. On the other hand, if Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were to find the evidence first, then Voidless Realm would be seen as an impartial big shot, and they would be respected by more people. Right now, they were competing to see who was faster. In actuality, the most unjust thing was that Zhu Tian had already dealt with the details very well, and there was no evidence at all. But even so, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji still firmly believed that Yi Hua was the one behind all of this. I'm not going to talk to you about the evidence. In any case, it is you. Donghuang Baiji thought for a moment, then shouted out. Men! Bring out the dossier of Dongfeng family that year. Yes. If Dongfeng family is really framed, I will not let it go. Donghuang Baiji's beautiful eyes revealed out a bit of firmness. After all, this matter was judged by my Lord Father, and if it is wrong, I will definitely correct it. Qingye nodded her head, then said with a light smile. This is not only a competition with Yi Hua, this is also a competition to uphold justice in the world. Donghuang Baiji agreed with what Qingye said. Yi Hua felt that this was bullshit justice. Without me being evil, how can there be justice in the world? Right now, within the bar, Yi Hua was currently opening a bottle of champagne at the bar counter and drinking with his sister-in-law. Brother-in-law, why are you so happy today? My big sister is coming back? Qing Yutong took a sip of champagne and asked curiously. Yi Hua sneered. I will be happy for them? Don't joke around. TSK, 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 you still don't want to admit it? In actuality, you can't wait for big sister and Baiji to come back, right? What does a brat know? I am going to make your big sister beg me to come back. Watch carefully. Qing Yutong spread out her hands and said helplessly, I'm just afraid that in the end, brother-in-law. Even if I am going to jump off a cliff, I will not go and beg them. All right. Brother-in-law, you are awesome. Sister-in-law shall give you a toast. Ding. Yi Hua drank the champagne in a single gulp. Your honor. Zhu Tian suddenly walked out from the darkness, giving Qing Yutong a fright. I didn't even notice that Zhu Tian had arrived. Miss Qing. Zhu Tian said with a light smile towards Qing Yutong. Yi Hua trusted his sister-in-law a lot. There were a lot of things that Qingye didn't know about, but Qing Yutong knew about everything. From this, it could be seen that Qing Yutong was very favored by Yi Hua. This is Zhu Tian, another subordinate of mine. Yi Hua said faintly. Qing Yutong sized up Zhu Tian and felt that his light smile was so fake, it looked even uglier than crying. Zhu Tian, don't smile so politely, it looks really ugly. Yi Hua couldn't bear to watch on anymore. When Zhu Tian smiles, his skin moves, but his flesh doesn't move. Recently, Zhu Tian had been learning how to smile. Smiling is a type of courtesy, but I really can't bring myself to smile. Of course. Seeing that his honor is happy, I am able to smile. This is the glory of being a subordinate, this feels great. Your honor, the madam should be suspicious of me. Zhu Tian said respectfully. After causing such a ruckus today, the madams will definitely be suspicious of me. Yi Hua swirled the champagne in his hand and said indifferently. With their unreasonable personalities, even if they don't have any evidence, they have already pinned the blame on me. Furthermore, they have already thought of a way to deal with me. Your honor's wisdom surpasses that of Zhuge Liang. Subordinate is inferior to even one of your honor's fingers. I hope that your honor can bestow upon subordinate the highest wisdom, and allow subordinate to do things for your honor with all my heart. Qing Yutong felt very cold, and goosebumps appeared all over her body. Chapter 378. Yi Hua said faintly, I will give you a piece of information. Thank you, Your Honor. Qing Yutong couldn't take it anymore. Your conversation is so shameless. If they want to win against me right now, there is only one way. And that is to obtain the evidence of the 5 aristocratic families' crimes before us. If they were to announce it, all of our efforts would be wasted. Zhu Tian could be seen kneeling down. Your Honor is a god. Qing Yutong. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. I am going to go upstairs. If I continue listening to this, I will die from numbness. Zhu Tian, they have an advantage. Baiji is able to investigate what happened back then, but you don't have such an advantage. Have you thought clearly about what you are going to do? Do you need me to remind you? Zhu Tian was terrified, then said hurriedly, Your Honor has already provided so much information. Subordinate doesn't dare to let Your Honor use his brain anymore. That would make subordinate seem very useless. Yi Hua let out a breath. You are quite sensible. I didn't think of any other methods. The relationship between a superior and a subordinate was very complicated. As a subordinate, he had to understand the boss's personality, and when it was time to flatter the boss, he had to flatter the boss. Of course, Zhu Tian wasn't flattering the boss. He was praising the boss sincerely. After all, the previous His Honor was a simple-minded skeleton. If he didn't need to use his brain, he definitely wouldn't use it. Go, try to solve the case as soon as possible. After that, I will use my ultimate technique to instantly kill them. Yi Hua laughed lightly. Those who went against me are all howling in pain in hell. Only the 2 of you can make me love and hate you. Yes. Subordinate will take my leave now. Yi Hua took out a cigarette and slowly lit it up. Right now the atmosphere in Xiao residence was very heavy. Basin after basin of blood was carried out from the room, causing everyone to feel even more depressed. Xiao Yi was still not awake and was lying on the bed. Although Xu Nan's medical skills weren't as abnormal as Song Huang's, she was still an expert. Right now, the medicine has already been applied on Xiao Yi's body. Just that, his buttocks were all smashed up. It will take a long time for Xiao Yi to fully recover. Xu Nan let out a deep sigh. My husband is still so impulsive. If only those people were here, they would at least be able to treat my husband's injuries. It's a pity that my husband cut off that path. If not, he wouldn't have ended up like this. After wiping off the bloodstains on her hands, Xu Nan walked out of the room. Yu Qi and the other women hurriedly asked, Brother Xiao, what happened? I spared his life, Xu Nan said helplessly. This was good news for Yu Qi and the others. As long as the man didn't die, it was fine. She could live in peace in the future. The women's thoughts were very simple. It was just that Xiao Yi didn't want to live a peaceful life. He wanted to stand above everyone. Xu Nan, there's a man who claims to be Cindy's relative waiting in the side hall, Yu Qi said. Xu Nan frowned and said in a deep voice, I'll go take a look. You guys look after Brother Xiao. Yes. Arriving at the side hall, Xu Nan saw a man dressed in calm clothes sitting and drinking tea. From his appearance, he didn't look like a bad person, but who knew? Hello, I'm Xu Nan. When the man saw Xu Nan walking over, he stood up and smiled. Hello, my name is Wu Lu. Xu Nan smiled and shook hands with her before sitting down. You're Cindy's? My cousin from afar has recently come to Zijin's city to take care of some matters, so I came over to take a look. Wu Lu maintained a faint smile from beginning to end, but for some reason, this smile made Xu Nan's whole body numb. Especially that pair of squinting eyes. It gave people an illusion of a very kind person. So it's Cindy's cousin from afar. Cindy has recently gone abroad. Hearing Xu Nan's words, Wu Lu paused for a moment. Xu Nan didn't notice this subtle action, but Wu Lu knew that something had happened. Because Nangong Cindy's location was still here. Wu Lu asked curiously, I saw that the servants of the Xiao residence are very busy today. Did something happen? You're overthinking. They're just preparing for the family banquet. I see. Then I'll have to bother you. Wu Lu stood up and said faintly. He still didn't know what happened today. I'll send you off. Xu Nan was also very polite. Wu Lu smiled and nodded. The 2 of them walked towards the door. However, just when they reached the door, they heard the guards outside shouting angrily. Who are you? The person who killed you. Ah! After a few muffled sounds of someone falling to the ground, The door became quiet again. Shu Nan's expression instantly changed. Her husband had just fallen, and someone came to seek revenge so quickly. Wu Lu turned around and looked at Shu Nan. It seemed that something had really happened. The two huge mahogany doors were instantly lifted and flew towards the two of them. Wu Lu slowly waved his arm, and the two wooden doors flew towards the two of them as if they were cut by a huge blade. The one standing at the door was Chen Xuanzong. Today, he was here to exterminate the Xiao family. Looking at this person who had recently reincarnated, Wu Lu's expression didn't change. Chen Xuanzong looked at the smiling man in front of him and frowned. His intuition told him that this person was very dangerous. Today, I'm here to take revenge. Chen Xuanzong stated his intention. Wu Lu lightly smiled and said, "Sorry, the Xiao family is on a holiday today. I'll come another day." Chen Xuanzong's eyes focused, and a terrifying spiritual energy erupted. He turned his hand into a palm and attacked with a violent aura. Wu Lu didn't have any intention of retreating. His right hand instantly emitted a colorful brilliance, and it instantly clashed against Chen Xuanzong's palm. Boom! The entire Xiao family was shaken. Shu Nan, who was at the side, was directly sent flying. Her back smashed against a stone pillar and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Under this attack, the front yard was in a mess. Wu Lu sighed in his heart. As expected of a reincarnated demon emperor. This strength is extraordinary. Chen Xuanzong's eyes were filled with astonishment. Who is this person? He actually received my palm attack head-on, and it seems to be rather easy. I said, the Xiao family is on a holiday today. Chen Xuanzong leaped backwards. Are you trying to protect the Xiao family? Is there any other possibility? Wu Lu spread his hands and said. He seemed to be very mysterious, which Chen Xuanzong couldn't see through. If you were to retreat today, I will definitely reward you generously. Wu Lu shook his head. Although he was stronger than the other party, it wasn't that easy to capture him, unless it was a one-sided battle. An S-rank reincarnator shouldn't be underestimated. Leave. Come back another day. Chen Xuanzong weighed in his heart. If he were to fight with him today, his chances of winning wouldn't be high. Injuries would definitely be unavoidable. How unlucky. From the looks of it, they seem to be going out. If only I came 10 minutes later. The palm attack just now made my arm numb. Chen Xuanzong shouted coldly. Then I'll come back another day. Looking at Chen Xuanzong leaving, Wu Lu looked at his palm. There were black threads that looked like spiderwebs. He quickly took out a pill and swallowed it. This demon emperor's strength was indeed not bad. Chapter 379. Can you take me to see Xiaoyi now? Wu Lu faintly smiled. His narrowed eyes made people feel uncomfortable. Shu Nan nodded. She didn't expect Cinny's cousin to be so powerful. Wu Lu came to the bedroom, and when he saw Xiaoyi being beaten up to such a state, he was a bit shocked as well. After knowing what happened, Wu Lu exclaimed in admiration. Xiaoyi was actually stripped of his title by Voidless Realm. Shen Yuan's sword was taken away by Voidless Realm, and his strength was crippled. To this immortal emperor, he might as well just kill Xiaoyi. After asking again and again, Wu Lu found out that Nangong Cinny was already dead, and the one who killed her was the black-cloaked skeleton. It was said that it was related to that bar, but it still needed to be investigated. It seemed that the boss's promotion to S rank was correct. Death mages were summoned, not transmigrated or reborn. Therefore, the space-time branch did not have any levels. Suddenly, Wu Lu thought of a good idea. Recently, the company was short of manpower. Although this immortal emperor had lost his ancient godly item and power, his foundation was still there. There seemed to be a lot of decent primordial spirits in the warehouse. Although they were slightly weak, they could at least help him recover some of his strength, making it convenient for him to help the company. These decent primordial spirits belonged to those unlucky reincarnators. They were captured when they were at their weakest, and their primordial spirits were extracted before being sent back. Although this primordial spirit was relatively weak, it still had potential. After all, those who could cultivate a primordial spirit were all very powerful. It was just that when he came over he was too weak. Shu Nan, if you trust me, hand your husband over to me. I can cure him and restore his strength. Wu Lu's words made Shu Nan very shocked, but from this person's performance just now, he was still very strong. Can I come with you? Shu Nan asked. Wu Lu shook his head. Shu Nan looked at her pale husband. When he woke up, he would definitely be in so much pain that he would want to die. Rather than seeing her husband in pain, it was better to take a gamble. If her husband was still awake, he would definitely make the same choice. All right, I hope you're not lying to me. Otherwise, I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. Wu Lu chuckled. You women all like to say that. Shu Nan immediately became worried. This person looked calm, but his words didn't seem to be reliable. By a while Shu Nan was deep in thought. Wu Lu and Xiao Yi on the bed disappeared. After an unknown amount of time, Xiao Yi slowly opened his eyes. Scenes appeared in his mind. The Shenyuan sword was gone. His strength was gone. What was the point of living? Do you want to die? Xiao Yi was startled and looked around. It was pitch black. Who's talking? Bang bang bang. The white lights were switched on one after another. It was very dazzling. Xiao Yi frowned and closed his eyes. Xiao Yi. Before he was reborn, he was a celestial emperor. Although he was a relatively weak celestial emperor, at least he still had a reputation. After he arrived on Earth, he reformed the Xiao family and obtained the Shenyuan sword. People called him the act-tough King Xiao. But unfortunately, all his glory was taken away within a day. Xiao Yi's expression changed drastically. The immortal emperor was his greatest secret, not even his wives knew about it. How did he know? Wu Lu smiled and said, I know you're confused. In fact, our company specializes in catching transmigrators like you. We knew about it on the first day you came, so we arranged for Nangong Sini to be by your side. Unfortunately, she's dead. What? Sini is one of your people. Xiao Yi involuntarily shouted. He never thought that he would be arranged. Yes, but don't be disappointed. Her feelings for you are real. Every time she reports, she only picks on the light ones. You've instigated our people to defect. After a long time, Xiao Yi seemed to accept this situation. What do you want to do? Recently, the company is short of manpower. If we can have a celestial emperor like you to support us, the work efficiency should be good. As a manager, Wu Lu basically didn't go out on duty. He only gave orders. Why? Because I can let you continue to have strength. Hearing this, Xiao Yi was tempted. As Wu Lu snapped his fingers, the wall gradually moved, revealing the items inside. Xiao Yi couldn't believe it. The rows of bottles actually contained primordial spirits. What kind of organization was this? I can make an exception and arrange a weaker primordial spirit for you. If you perform well, you can naturally obtain a stronger primordial spirit. In fact, there are a few very powerful celestial emperor primordial spirits here. Unfortunately, their luck wasn't as good as yours. When they came over, they were too weak and their heads were blown off by the people below. Listening to Wu Lu's explanation, Xiao Yi was shocked. He also saw a glimmer of hope. After this experience, he also knew the importance of hugging someone's thigh. The opportunity was in front of him again. He couldn't miss it. Good. I promise you. Wu Lu was very happy. This is a living celestial emperor, and furthermore, this celestial emperor is working for me. What bullshit arrogance. This Xiao Yi is tactful. Otherwise, there would be another bottle here. In actuality, Xiao Yi also thought of this point. Such an important matter has been found out by me. If I don't promise you, I might very well die. In the future we will be colleagues. I am very happy that you have joined Space-Time Branch. Space-Time Branch, Xiao Yi felt that it should be very powerful, right? 1 month passed by in the blink of an eye. Yihua was very angry. These two women are actually still stubbornly resisting. Do they really want me to use my trump card? Zhu Tian's investigation didn't have any progress at all, unless he used extreme methods, such as capturing all of them and forcing them to confess. This was the simplest and fastest method. However, this wasn't what Yihua wanted. This wasn't shocking at all. He wanted to find evidence that would make them speechless. It would be best if he could find evidence that would slap them in the face on the spot. Zhu Tian didn't find any evidence, and Donghuang Baiji didn't find any evidence as well. It had already been more than 100 years, and the evidence was basically all gone. Yi Hua and Donghuang Baiji were in a deadlock just like that. Neither of them was willing to take a step back. Sometimes, when a husband and wife quarreled, the one who took a step back would be the one who would be at peace. Although there wasn't any progress in the investigation, the relationship between the 5 aristocratic families was very tense. In just 1 month, the younger generation of the aristocratic families had gotten into a fight. Although there weren't any casualties, there were still some who had their arms and legs broken. When this news reached Voidless Realm's ears, Donghuang Baiji became very annoyed. Thus, Donghuang Baiji ordered the 5 aristocratic families to not get into a fight. As the newly appointed Dongfang family, Dongfang Yuaner was very low-key. After all, Dongfang Yuan didn't have a luxurious base, and she also didn't have any connections. Bai Cixin left Zijin City and followed her husband to Wang family's territory, which was located in Gaohai City. In the south, Wang family could be considered to have a place of their own. However, after the robbery of the ancient godly item last time, Wang Debao's credibility had been completely used up. The Southerners looked down on Wang Debao, and the 2 banquets that Wang Debao held, there weren't any big figures that came, and the only people that came were some small merchants. Tang Wushuang's family also came to the south. His master's disappearance was a huge blow to Tang Wushuang, and after Tang Wushuang came to the south, he didn't cause any trouble for Tang family. Instead, he lived his life carefully and didn't cause any trouble for others. After all, Tang Wushuang's strength was clear for all to see. Xiao Yi also left the north, and his family moved to Gaohai City. And right now, Xiao Yi had another identity. He was a field agent of the space-time branch, and he was on standby 24 hours a day. In 1 month, he took on 2 missions, and both of them were transmigrators. Xiao Yi was able to easily capture the transmigrators and obtain the praise of the space-time branch. This made Xiao Yi feel very happy, and he felt that his life was pretty much the same as before. Chapter 380. The Space-Time Directorate and the Gods were 2 different systems. The former was equivalent to a technological civilization, managing the problem of smuggling between different planes. On the other hand, the gods were in charge of the safety of the designated planes. The 2 were of different natures, so there was no conflict between them. This was also the reason why the space-time branch didn't intervene in the matters between the giants. Of course, sometimes they would intervene, just like how Wu Lu used Die Hard, but the failure of Die Hard made Wu Lu give up. The gods controlled the safety of the planes, and there were also ranks among the gods. After all, where there were people there would be Jiang Hu, not to mention the high and mighty god world. A powerful god often controlled several planes. Just how big was the entire universe? Just like the world that Yi Hua came from in the past and the current world, there were 2 different deities. Compared to the deities in the current world, the deities in the other world were more powerful. After all, the deities in the other world were more powerful. Meanwhile, Yi Hua had asked Zishan about it, and she found out that the number of overlords in this world seemed to be pitifully few. From this, it could be seen just how low the combat prowess of the overlords was. Thus, Yi Hua completely lost interest in the overlords. Gods lived in a large world with boundless spiritual qi. There were no ordinary people here, only gods. God was just a title, just like human. It was just that the gods had an innate coldness towards the lower worlds. To put it bluntly, they looked down on them. In the beginning, Zishan was also the same. She did not care about the life and death of Ji family. As for Zishan, she could be considered to be a well-known figure among the deities. If not, she wouldn't have been chosen by the king and become a member of the harem. The Heavenly Palace was the capital city of the gods' world. Naturally, the imperial palace was indispensable, and the person who lived there was naturally the highest ruler of the entire Heavenly Palace. But today, it wasn't the imperial palace that was bustling, but one of the prince's mansions. Marquis Palace. People came and went at the entrance of the Ho Wang Fu. Everyone held gifts in their hands and entered the Ho Wang Fu with a heart full of respect. Today was Ho Shualin's birthday, and those who came were all descendants of the royal family. Even some members of the royal family had to address him as Lord Ho. One could see Ho Shualin's status in heaven's sanctum. I heard that Prince Ho married the beautiful and talented Miss Zishan some time ago. It seems like I'm lucky to meet her today. That's right, I heard that this Miss Zishan is proficient in the 4 arts, and she is also very strong. Marquis Wangye is truly blessed. Everyone seemed to be talking about Miss Zishan, and in the backyard of the Ho mansion, there were 2 middle-aged men and a young man. One of them was the Ho master, Ho Xuelin. He was dressed in luxurious clothes with golden threads, and there was an ancient godly item on his belt. The ring on his thumb was also an ancient godly item. It seemed as though the ancient godly items were just decorations to him. Even though Ho Xuelin looked like a middle-aged man, he had actually lived for tens of thousands of years. It was just that his appearance was fixed at middle-aged age. Of course, he could also look like a teenager, but a middle-aged man looked more mature and reserved. Coupled with his handsome face, he was indeed very attractive to the opposite sex. The 2 men beside him were Che Hongliang and Wu Ma-en. Che Hongliang was the younger brother-in-law of the current emperor, and his sister was the empress. Wu Ma-en was the crown prince's playmate, and his father was a valiant general. The 3 of them could be said to be the most influential people in Heaven's sanctum, excluding the royal family. Che Hongliang's body was slightly plump, and his eyes were filled with craftiness. He was a wily old fox. On the other hand, Wu Ma-en had the appearance of a youngster, and he was as beautiful as jade. He had a graceful bearing, and he was lightly waving the folding fan in his hand. He had the appearance of a playboy. After all, he had to accompany the crown prince to have fun, and he had to be to the crown prince's liking. Prince Ho, why don't I see Madame Zi Yuan today? Wu Ma-en asked with a smile while waving the folding fan in his hand. Ho Xuelin pinched onto his thumb and index finger and said faintly, "She was punished by me to face the wall and reflect on her misdeeds." Che Hongliang, who was at the side, blew away the steam on his teacup, then lightly took a sip of the tea while wrinkling his brows. Soon after, Che Hongliang said, "Prince Ho is willing to punish such a beauty admirable. Hee, her temperament is too arrogant. How can she not be punished?" Wu Ma-en laughed lightly. "Today is Prince Ho's birthday, let's pardon her misdeeds. Besides, there are a lot of nobles who wish to take a look at Madame Zi Yuan's appearance today." Hearing what Wu Ma-en said, Ho Xuelin laughed loudly. "What young master said is right, let's pardon her misdeeds then. Men, bring Madame Zi Yuan over." Yes. After receiving the order, the 2 imperial guards immediately went to bring Madame Zi Yuan over. However, what they didn't know was that Madame Zi Yuan was already in trouble. "Prince Ho, there is a matter that I wish to ask of you." Wu Ma-en placed the folding fan beside the teacup and said with a serious expression. Ho Xuelin nodded and said, "Young master-in, what are you saying? You are the most popular person by the crown prince's side. Even I have to be courteous to you." "Aya, Prince Ho must be joking. The crown prince still has to address you respectfully as Prince Ho. Haha, young master-in, if there is anything that you need, just say it. If it is something that I can do, I will naturally do it." Ho Xuelin said with a smile. Wu Ma-en said gravely, "The crown prince received a secret report that the descendants of Nuwa who had disappeared for a long time seem to have reappeared." "There is such a matter?" Ho Xuelin paused for a moment, then said with doubt. After hearing what Wu Ma-en said, Che Hongliang was startled as well, then placed down the teacup. "The descendants of Nuwa? They have disappeared for a long time, and back then, they had disappeared together with the Eastern Emperor clan." Ho Xuelin smiled, then picked up the teapot and poured the green tea into the teacup, causing a delightful fragrance to drift out. "That's right, Nuwa and the Eastern Emperor clan were extremely famous back then, and the females of the Eastern Emperor clan were extremely beautiful," Ho Xuelin said faintly. Wu Ma-en nodded in agreement. The crown prince spent a lot of effort to obtain this information, and furthermore, this plane is under the jurisdiction of Prince Ho. "Impossible, such a matter actually happened within my jurisdiction." Ho Xuelin exclaimed in admiration. "The crown prince is also afraid of breaking the rules, so he sent me over to inform the crown prince." "Inform the crown prince?" Ho Xuelin's expression sank. "Isn't the crown prince stepping too far?" Che Hongliang laughed lightly. "Since it is within Prince Ho's jurisdiction, how can we trouble the crown prince to personally go over? Prince Ho can just send a few people over." "That's even better." Wu Ma-en didn't refute. The words that he said just now was also the crown prince's intention. Wu Ma-en wanted to take down Prince Ho's prestige and let Prince Ho know that the crown prince isn't someone to be trifled with. I will naturally send people over to investigate, Ho Shualin said with a smile. In actuality, he wished that he could scold the crown prince in his heart. After all, I was the one who placed the Eastern Emperor clan down there for the sake of the Eastern Emperor bloodline. However, up until now, no one in the Eastern Emperor clan has awakened the power of the Eastern Emperor bloodline. On the contrary, the hidden Yuhua bloodline has awakened, and even the crown prince found out about it. This is going to be a bit troublesome. That's great. His Highness the Crown Prince will be very happy. The corner of Wu Ma'an's mouth curled up into a complacent smile as he picked up the folding fan once again. This folding fan was an ancient godly item. Right at this moment, the two Imperial Guards returned, and one of the Imperial Guards leaned over and whispered a few words into Ho Shualin's ears. Ho Shualin's face remained expressionless as he smiled at the two Imperial Guards. Madame Zi Yuan is angry at me. I am truly ashamed. Chapter 381. That is such a pity. I didn't get to see Madame Zi Yuan's beauty. Wu Ma'an laughed lightly, then picked up the teacup and took a sip. Che Hongliang sighed lightly. A lot of people are going to be disappointed today. I thought that your highness is hiding a mistress and is unwilling to come out. Sigh, this woman is shy. She is embarrassed to come out and meet people. Next time. Ho Shualin said with a smile. This Zi Shan actually ran to the secular world to escape from me. If I capture her back this time, watch how I teach her a lesson. After being married for a few months, I won't even let you touch her. If not for me, you wouldn't even have a place to stand. It will be the royal hunt in a few days, young masterin. You have to remind the crown prince to perform well. Che Hongliang said lightly. Rather than saying that it was an instruction, it was more like a disguised form of mockery. After all, Che Hongliang's sister was the empress, and the empress's son was not the crown prince. It was inevitable for the empress to be a bit dissatisfied, and thus, she had to help her son to the throne. That was why Che Hongliang and Wu Ma'an were in opposing camps, while Ho Shualin did not stand on either side. The two of them had been talking to each other many times, but Ho Shualin was just playing dumb. Wu Ma'an smiled. Your highness is proficient in both the pen and the sword. You will naturally be able to perform outstandingly in the hunt. That is good. Che Hongliang said indifferently. All right, today is my birthday. Let's go out and have a drink. The three of them stood up and walked towards the front courtyard, while Ho Shualin looked for his personal guard, Lin Hong, and told him to bring some people to the secular world to look for Madame Zi Yuan. Lin Hong was a man who looked to be in his 30s. He had a square face and an unyielding aura. After receiving His Highness' order, Lin Hong called two of his trusted subordinates to go to the secular world to look for Madame Zi Yuan and look for the three big shots. The three of them instantly arrived at the location where Madame Zi Yuan came from. Looking at the ruins in front of them, Lin Hong deeply wrinkled his brows. This is Ji family, one of the three big shots in the secular world? What is the difference between this place and a ghost town? Brother Lin, there is a godly aura here. A skinny man shouted. His name was San Chi, and he was someone that Lin Hong had saved. In order to repay his kindness, San Chi had been following Lin Hong. At this moment, another tall man walked forward and sensed the aura. Brother Lin, the aura is very dense, it should be Madame Zi Yuan. This person was called Li Li. Just like his name, the muscles all over his body looked like they were about to explode. After obtaining Lin Hong's recognition, he had been following him. Lin Hong's expression was very solemn as he scanned the surroundings. Madame Zi Yuan must have encountered some trouble. How is it possible for someone from such a low-level world to be able to harm Madame Zi Yuan? San Chi cried out in surprise, not daring to believe what was happening. Lin Hong shouted in a deep voice. San Chi, how many times have I taught you, don't underestimate the enemy? Yes. San Chi lowered his head and answered. Although Li Li appeared to be tall and big, he was definitely someone with brains. Brother Lin, from the looks of it, this Ji family has been exterminated. It is possible that Madame Zi Yuan only appeared after she sensed that something was amiss, and after that, she ran into those people. Li Li, your deduction is very correct. It is impossible for Madame Zi Yuan to come down here for no reason at all. Madame Zi Yuan must have seen that there is a problem with Ji family. Thus, she came down here to stop Madame Zi Yuan, but unexpectedly, she was captured by someone. Lin Hong felt that something was amiss. But, Who is capable of capturing Madame Zi Yuan? Sanchi's head hurt from thinking about it. Although she was a god, her brain was the same. There were also people with low IQ. Lin Hong said in a deep voice. We came down for this matter. Let's take a look at the situation of the other two giants and ask them about the situation. Yes. Yes. After finished speaking, the three disappeared from the spot. Within Voidless Realm, Qingya and Dong Huangbaiji sat in Dong Huang Li's small courtyard. Dong Huang Li was currently sleeping in her mother's embrace, and Dong Huang Li was mumbling, Ali misses Daddy. When the two women heard Ali's sleep-talking, they smiled helplessly. However, within the smile, there was also bitterness. A month had passed, and Yihua still didn't come to look for them. Naturally, Yihua felt uncomfortable in his heart. No matter what, his wife ran away from home. As a husband, he should at least coax his wife. However, this Yihua didn't even say a single word to his wife. Qingya rubbed onto her belly that was already bulging out, and a gentle look could be seen on her beautiful face. After becoming a mother soon, Qingya's temperament seemed to have calmed down, and she wasn't as irritable and easily angry as before. There really isn't a single clue at all. Dong Huangbaiji was very puzzled. During the past month, she and Qingya had investigated all of the details, and yet, they were unable to find any clue at all. Either the matter was real, or the matter was concealed very well. There shouldn't be any clue at Yihua's side as well. If there was, he would have already done something long ago. Qingya said lightly. Feeling the little life in her belly, her mood became much better. Yihua is really too much. Your belly is already so round. No matter what, he still has to come and take a look at you. Dong Huangbaiji felt that it was unfair for Qingya. I gave birth to Ali all by myself. Could it be that Qingya is going to walk down the same path as me? Qingya said faintly, just let him be. If worst comes to worst, I will take care of him myself in the future. Qingya, are you angry? Dong Huangbaiji was still able to tell that a pregnant woman ran away from home, and her husband still doesn't care about her at all. This matter was different from me. Yihua knew that Qingya was pregnant. Qingya shook her head. Do I dare to be angry at him? He is the boss. Qingya, how about we send someone back? Dong Huangbaiji asked. After not seeing each other for a month, it would be a lie if she said that she didn't miss Yihua. In actuality, being apart for a month was also beneficial. It allowed the two of them to clearly understand their feelings for each other. You aren't going to send Ali back, right? Qingya cried out in surprise. During this period of time, Ali has been calling me daddy every day. I am about to become a sinner. Dong Huangbaiji smiled bitterly as she lightly caressed onto her daughter's forehead. Qingya nodded her head. That's true. It has been a long time since Yihua last saw Ali. We can also ask Ali's daddy to inquire about some information. Dong Huangbaiji seemed to feel that this idea was not bad. Qingya laughed lightly. Ali is about to become a little spy because of you. I suddenly feel that I should just let Yihua teach her. Qingya, whose side are you standing on? Be careful. Yihua might turn your son into a demon king. At the very least, if he becomes a demon king, he won't be bullied by others. Qingya said faintly. Standing from a mother's perspective, Qingya naturally hoped that her son would grow up happily and be able to accomplish something after he grows up. Of course, the precondition was that her son wouldn't be bullied by others. Whoever dares to bully my son, as a mother, I, as her son, will definitely fight with my life on the line. Your Majesty, 3 outsiders suddenly barged into Voidless Realm, and they claimed to be gods. An imperial guard hurriedly ran over and reported the emergency situation. Dong Huangbaiji's brows wrinkled. Baiji, leave Ali to me. Quickly go and take a look at what is going on. Qingya said gravely. 3 gods suddenly came. Could it be related to Ji family's matter? Dong Huangbaiji nodded her head, then handed her daughter over to Qingya, then disappeared from the courtyard. Yuan Da and the others were all waiting in the palace, and in the middle of the palace stood 3 men. Chapter 382. Among the 3 big powers, Voidless Realm's barrier was the strongest, and it gave people the feeling that Voidless Realm was protected by a king. However, wasn't there another possibility as well? Rearing them in captivity? Arranging the Eastern Emperor family within their jurisdiction and waiting for the Eastern Emperor's bloodline to awaken? Perhaps, They wanted to absorb the bloodline, or perhaps they had other motives? Yuan Da and the others bowed and stood at the two sides. They could clearly feel the godly might that the three of them were emitting out. They didn't expect that 1,000 years later, a god would appear once again. Their hearts were restless. Why did they come here? Looking at their expressions, they don't seem to be in a good mood. Donghuang Baiji finished changing her clothes in her bedroom, then slowly walked into the palace and looked at the three people in the palace. This was also the first time that Lin Hong and the others saw Donghuang Baiji, and their eyes revealed a look of surprise. Her appearance is actually above Madame Zi Yuan's, and the aura that was emitting out from her body is even more similar to that of a king. If not for the difference in status, I would have already kneeled down just now. Sanchi was very unhappy. A mere person from a low-grade world actually made me have the urge to kneel down and worship. Sanchi shouted out, "Eastern Emperor family, why are you not paying respects to the gods?" Only Marquis Wang Ye's trusted aides knew about the Eastern Emperor family's arrangement, and other people naturally didn't know about it. Donghuang Baiji looked at the three of them and felt the faint godly might that the three of them were giving off. These three people are indeed gods. There is no mistake about it. Just that, this god sure has a big tone. If not for Voidless Realms rule that was passed down from generation to generation, Donghuang Baiji wouldn't even bother to converse with them. Donghuang Baiji slightly leaned forward and said faintly, "Donghuang Baiji pays respects to the gods." "What kind of attitude is this?" Sanchi reprimanded harshly. Lin Hong raised his hand, indicating to Sanchi not to speak carelessly. "Donghuang Baiji, although you are a person with power in this world, you are not a king. You are nothing. Please be a bit more respectful." "King?" Donghuang Baiji asked confusedly. Lin Hong said faintly, "There are some things that you know too much about. It is not a good thing." Donghuang Baiji had been an empress for a very long time, and this was the first time that she met such a rude person. This is a god? He didn't seem to have the slightest intention of showing respect. In actuality, the reason why Donghuang Baiji had such an attitude towards Donghuang Baiji was also due to Yihua, because Yihua would often have a heart-to-heart talk with Donghuang Baiji when he was sleeping. Although the things that Yihua talked to Donghuang Baiji about weren't very big, Donghuang Baiji deeply felt that she didn't need to listen to anyone else's orders in her life. "Deity, is there a reason why you have come here today?" Donghuang Baiji asked indifferently. Her expression was the same as before, and she did not have the slightest bit of intention of backing down. San Qi and Li Li's faces darkened. It seemed like they wanted to teach him a lesson. Although Lin Hong was angry, His Highness valued the Donghuang clan very much, and there couldn't be any mishaps. Lin Hong said in a deep voice, "Your attitude today, I will report it to His Highness. Bear the consequences yourself." "I, the Empress, am naturally able to bear the responsibility," Donghuang Baiji said calmly. She slowly sat on the throne and looked down at the three of them. Lin Hong coldly snorted, "That's fine, I hope you can endure His Highness' anger." The expressions of Yuan De and the others abruptly changed. They didn't understand why the Empress had suddenly become so domineering. This was a god. He can easily destroy Voidless Realm. I can't offend him. If Yihua was here, he would definitely praise his wife. My woman doesn't need to fear anyone and anything. If they can't defeat me, I will call them husband. I will let them experience what deep despair is. If the three of you don't have anything else, you can leave Voidless Realm. Hearing that the Empress was going to expel the three of them, Yuanda's heart sunk. She really isn't giving me any face at all. Lin Hong didn't expect that this Donghuang Baiji would be so arrogant. If not for His Highness, I would have started a massacre today. Taking a deep breath, Yihua calmed down the anger within his body. "Donghuang Baiji, I have a few things to ask you." "Speak." Lin Hong had seen formidable people before, but he had never seen such a formidable woman before. That Madame Zi Yuan was very formidable too, but in the end, she was still defeated by His Highness and then accepted into his harem. It was just that they had never seen a formidable woman before. If they had seen a formidable woman before, their attitude would definitely not be like this. "How did Ji family get destroyed?" Lin Hong asked gravely. So the reason why these deities came down is to ask about Ji family. Thinking about it, it is normal. I am only in charge of the north, and I am not very clear about what happened to Ji family. When I arrived at Ji family was already in ruins. Donghuang Baiji said. Have you seen this woman before? Lin Hong took out a portrait of a woman. Dong Huang Baiji looked at the woman in the portrait. She looks so familiar. Where have I seen this woman before? Where have I seen this woman before? That's right. That's Zishan, Yi Hong's wife. My God, is that Zishan a deity? And Yi Hong is Yi Hua's underling. Dong Huang Baiji's mind was a bit confused, but she mustn't be confused right now, because Yi Hua had caused a huge trouble. I have never seen her before. What relationship does the woman in the portrait have with Ji family? Dong Huang Baiji asked. Lin Hong kept the portrait and said faintly, "This woman is His Highness's concubine, and the last place that she appeared was at Ji family." Dong Huang Baiji's heart sunk, then said calmly, "So that's how it is. Since you don't know, then forget about it. However, I will report everything that you did today to His Highness." After finished speaking, Lin Hong brought his men and disappeared, heading towards Ying family to greet them. After the three of them left, Dong Huang Baiji sat on the throne and went into a daze. After connecting all these things together, everything becomes clear. I have to discuss this matter with Qing Ye. Your Majesty? Yuan De shouted out. All of you can leave. After finished speaking, Dong Huang Baiji appeared in the courtyard. What happened? Qing Ye carried Dong Huang Li and asked concernedly. Dong Huang Baiji signaled the maid to carry her daughter into the house to sleep. Looking at Dong Huang Baiji's expression, Qing Ye knew that it wasn't a good thing. Afterward, Dong Huang Baiji told Qing Ye about what happened just now. The deities came because of Ji family's matter? Dong Huang Baiji shook her head and said gravely, "No, to be precise, they came to look for a woman." Woman? Do you still remember the godly might that you felt at Ji family that day? That is the woman that they are looking for. Qing Ye's gaze was filled with doubt, then asked, "Is it related to Yi Hua?" As expected of the woman that Yi Hua regards highly, to be able to think of my man for everything. Dong Huang Baiji nodded her head. This caused Qing Ye to exclaim in admiration. Furthermore, we know that woman. No. This time, Qing Ye was even more astonished. She is Yi Hong's wife. Zishan. Ah! It's her. Qing Ye stood up in shock. Dong Huang Baiji hurriedly held onto Qing Ye. Be careful of the child. That's right. It is Zishan. Furthermore, this Zishan is some king's concubine. Qing Ye slowly sat down, then said with a taut face, "The cigarette ash that we found at Ji family that day?" Chapter 383. A feeling of powerlessness emerged from Qing Ye's heart. Just who is Yi Hua? Why is my feeling towards Yi Hua becoming more and more blurry? Isn't he just the boss of a bar? Wasn't he a cultivator hiding from his enemies? Was Ji family exterminated by Yi Hua? Dong Huang Baiji asked puzzledly. Qing Ye shook her head. This matter is still not easy to judge. The two women fell silent. They felt that their husband was hiding a lot of things from them. They couldn't understand why he was hiding it from them. Was it because he didn't trust him? I'm your wife. If anything happens, we'll face it together. Why do you have to hide it from me? Yi Hua was worried that they wouldn't be able to accept his identity, and thus, there were some things that Yi Hua didn't say. Of course, there were also some things that Yi Hua felt that there was no need to say. After all, they were all small matters, and there was nothing to say. However, to Qing Ye and Dong Huang Baiji, these small matters were huge matters. In actuality, what women were concerned about was whether or not the man had placed them in his heart. However, Yi Hua didn't know what these women were thinking. After all, he didn't have much experience in dating, and thus, he directly skipped this part and became a father. However, right now, Yi Hua still didn't know that the gods had already come to look for him. Furthermore, his two wives already knew that he was present at that time. Although he didn't tell the gods that he was present at that time, the two wives were still very unhappy that their husbands were hiding everything from them. Yi Hua stood at the entrance of Leisure Bar and took a look at the Audi A8 that was parked at the side. Right now, there isn't even a driver left. Opening up his phone, he took a look at the change in his WeChat. There is only 100 plus RMB left. Yesterday, I went to Lai Gu's house to freeload a meal. Today, I will go to Wei Chang's house to freeload a meal. As for Qing Yutong, who is playing games, I don't care about her anymore. Brother-in-law, wait for me. Qing Yutong immediately rushed out and hugged onto Yihua's arm. Yihua's arm sunk deep into that soft place. Right now, Qing Yutong doesn't even need to put on makeup when she goes out, because she is much more beautiful than before. What are you doing out here? Going to eat with brother-in-law? Qing Yutong said with a smile. Don't you have money? Brother-in-law, do you think I have money? Hurry up and bring my sister back, or else we'll have to beg for food. Yihua sneered, even if I starve to death, I won't go there. Qing Yutong's face was filled with disbelief. You came just in time, you drive. Yihua said faintly. Qing Yutong stretched out her delicate hand. What? Brother-in-law, the car needs to be refueled. When I drove it back yesterday, it was almost out of gas. Yihua raised his hand and slapped onto his sister-in-law's buttocks. Are you only going to open it and not increase it? I also need to have money to add on, it hurts so much, Qing Yutong said pitifully. When other people spank their buttocks, it was only for the sake of their mood, but when brother-in-law spanked their buttocks, it was completely a real spanking. Yihua could only take out his phone and call Didi. Not long after, a geely drove over, and Yihua brought along his sister-in-law to freeload a meal. When the old driver in the front saw the man and woman getting on the car, he was also amazed. This woman was really beautiful. Just looking at her made him have a physiological reaction. Brother-in-law, we can't go on like this. The old driver almost rear-ended the car. It was actually his sister-in-law and brother-in-law. Looking at how intimate they were, this sister-in-law could not wait to directly stick to him. She even said such words. He was simply speechless. She was playing with her brother-in-law behind her sister's back. Yihua said faintly, Go back to your old profession and earn some money for me. The old driver almost flipped the car. This brother-in-law wants his sister-in-law to sell herself and earn money for him. This is simply too ferocious to the extreme. Sniff, 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 I don't want to do it. How about brother-in-law, you go and do it? The old driver almost choked to death on his own saliva. This is definitely the weirdest brother-in-law and sister-in-law, selling all kinds of things. Scram. Qing Yutong pouted her mouth. I definitely won't go and become a celebrity. How boring is that? I might as well stay at home and play games to be happy. 20 minutes later, the two finally arrived at Wei Chang's old neighborhood. Might as well let Wei Chang sell the house. At least he can still sleep in the storage room. Yihua muttered. Qing Yutong laughed lightly. Hearing his sister-in-law's laughter, Yihua asked, What are you laughing at? Your life is not as good as your subordinates. Yihua raised his hand and gave a slap, causing Qing Yutong's face to turn red. Most probably, she was feeling it. She even had to walk with her legs between her legs. Brother-in-law, did we forget about Yi Zizi? Qing Yutong suddenly remembered Yi Zizi. This child has not finished school yet. Let her directly come over to eat later. The two walked towards Wei Chang's building, and just when they arrived downstairs, they saw Wei Chang and Tang Wei going out of the building. Boss! Wei Chang cried out in surprise. Tang Wei hurriedly greeted Yihua, and Yihua signaled to Tang Wei to forget about it. What are you two going to do? Yihua asked. I was just about to come here to freeload a meal, and you two are going out right now. Wei Chang said respectfully. Boss, we were just about to go to the Green and Red Brothers' house. Yi Hong is treating us today. Yihua's brows wrinkled. To actually not inform the Supreme Overlord that you are treating us. Do you want to die? If Yi Hong has the guts to go and treat you, you are a Supreme Overlord. Would you even care about a meal like this? However, the current Yi Hua indeed cared about it very much. Wherever there is food to eat, I will freeload there, and I still have to maintain the demeanor of a Supreme Overlord. However, upon thinking about Little Red, Yi Hua thought about that Zishan. I wonder how their situation is. I forgot about this matter. Calculating the time, it should be around 2 months, right? Has this Little Red gotten Zishan yet? If she didn't... Yihua stood there and waited for Wei Chang to invite him. Could it be that I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to take the initiative to go? Wei Chang felt that his honor wanted to say something, so he lowered his head and listened to his honor. Seems like Zhu Tian is still the brains of the team. Boss, how about we go together? Tang Wei, who was at the side, said respectfully. Yihua said reluctantly, I, the Supreme Overlord, will go and take a look then. Qing Yutong wanted to laugh, but she didn't dare to. Brother-in-law really wants everything. He clearly wants to freeload a meal, but he is too embarrassed to ask for it. Wei Chang's current car was a Cayenne, which was a bit more high-end than Yi Hua's A8. Once again, Qing Yutong's words were verified. Tang Wei was driving, Wei Chang was sitting at the front passenger seat, and Yi Hua and Qing Yutong were sitting at the back. Wei Chang turned his head around and asked, "Your Honor, is there a reason why you came here today?" I went to visit Lai Gu yesterday, so I came here today to see how you are doing," Yi Hua said indifferently. Wei Chang immediately felt overwhelmed by the favor. "Your Honor is truly considerate towards subordinates." "That is natural." Qing Yutong really wanted to expose brother-in-law's true colors. He just ran out to freeload a meal because he has no food to eat. "That's right. How are Yi Hong and Zishan getting along?" Yi Hua asked. Wei Chang paused for a moment then said, "The relationship between the two is much better than before, just that, they have yet to reach His Honor's request." "Zishan isn't pregnant yet?" "She isn't." Chapter 384. The heart of Tang Wei who was driving also sunk. Even Wei Chang felt that His Honor's words had a hidden meaning. "Is His Honor talking about me?" Wei Chang said with a smile. "Your Honor, the gap between Yi Hong and Zishan's status is too big, and they need to get used to each other. Besides, isn't there still half a month left? Who knows, maybe I'm pregnant." "Not necessarily. If that Zishan is still the same as before, then let's just kill her," Yi Hua said faintly. "I hate the feeling of gods acting high and mighty the most. Even I, the Supreme Overlord, do not act so pretentiously." Of course, Wei Chang wouldn't object. "Yes." Qing Yutong who was at the side also didn't say anything, because Qing Yutong knew that even if she said anything, it would be useless. If Qing Ye was here, she would definitely stop him. This was also the difference between the two sisters. They each had their own unique characteristics. Half an hour later, they finally arrived at the villa where the Green and Red brothers lived. Wei Chang got off the car and opened the door respectfully. Yi Hua and Qing Yutong looked at the villa in front of them and sighed with emotion. Qing Yutong pulled her brother-in-law, seemingly saying, "Look at your little brother's little brother. He is living even more freely than you." "Let's go," Yi Hua said faintly. "No matter how carefree he is still my subordinate, and I can take back everything that I have bestowed upon him." As Wei Chang and Tang Wei led the way, Tang Wei pressed the doorbell. Very quickly, the door was opened, and the person who opened the door was Zishan. Zishan could be seen wearing a white apron and seemed to be cooking. When Zishan opened the door, there was a trace of a smile on her face. However, when Zishan saw Yi Hua who was outside, she immediately retracted that trace of smile, as if she had seen a ghost. Yi Hua saw this action of hers. Seems like in just a month's time, there is indeed some change, but it is not a big change. In actuality, Zishan's change in this 1 month was quite big. In the past, she was hostile towards everyone. But now, at the very least, she was no longer hostile towards Wei Chang and Tang Wei. At the very least, when Zishan opened the door just now, she revealed a slight smile. From this, it could be seen that Zishan was very happy. At this time, the Green and Red brothers hurriedly came out of the Green and Red brothers and greeted respectfully. "Your Honor." "Go in," Yi Hua said faintly. He was very dissatisfied with Zishan's attitude. Yi Hong seemed to have sensed it as well. This shouldn't be the case. Zishan's attitude towards me has clearly changed during this period of time. In the past, he was always cold and sarcastic. Now, he would smile from time to time and speak more often. The most obvious thing was that Zishan had started learning how to cook. Furthermore, he was exceptionally meticulous. When he was cooking, he referred to the teachings on the internet and was extremely precise in how many grams of sugar and how many grams of salt to add. The food that Zishan made was naturally very delicious. At the very least, Yi Hong was able to truly understand Zishan's intentions. Although there was no skin-to-skin contact, Yi Hong was already very satisfied with this kind of life. Yi Hong had almost forgotten about the deadline of 2 months. And today, His Honor's sudden arrival shattered Yi Hong's beautiful dream, causing Yi Hong to think of the 2-month promise. Yi Hong wasn't the only one who thought of this. Zishan had also thought of it.
I feel that his honor came over this time for this matter.
But none of you could have imagined it. However, when he saw Zishan's attitude, he seemed to have changed his mind. Walking into the villa, Yihua sat on the sofa, while Qing Yutong sat at the side and peeled oranges for her brother-in-law.
However, the others stood to the side, not daring to do anything.
Why are you all standing here? Those who need to cook, go cook. Yihua said faintly. I only ate instant noodles for lunch, and I am a bit hungry. If I don't train my fleshly body, I won't be able to do anything. Zishan went to the kitchen, and Tang Wei followed her to help. Brother-in-law here. Qing Yutong peeled an orange and passed it to Yihua. Yihua took over the cup and said faintly, Everyone sit.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Big Brother Green was also worried for little brother. Today, when his honor comes up, he will definitely ask about it. Wei Chong felt helpless. This orange is rather sweet. Yihua couldn't help but say.
Qing Yutong, on the other hand, was rather tactful as she laughed. Brother-in-law, let me peel another one for you.
After pausing for a moment, Yihua asked faintly, Yihong, how have you been recently?
Yihong suddenly stood up, appearing to be very nervous. Your Honor, I have been doing well recently.
Zishan, who was in the kitchen, turned her head around and looked at Yihong, feeling worried in her heart.
Tang Wei, who was at the side, asked in a low voice, Zishan, did you and Yihong do that?
Hearing that, Zishan's face turned slightly red, then shook her head. Zishan, there is still some time left. You two better hurry up. Tang Wei reminded Zishan. In the beginning, I felt that Yihong and Zishan weren't compatible, but after getting to know each other, they were actually quite good. The two of them complemented each other. Zishan remained silent. Originally, I thought that I would be able to spend the last moments of my life like this, but as time passes, I feel more and more reluctant to part with Yihong. Even Zishan can't say what she is reluctant to part with. Is it Yihong? Perhaps. After Yihua, who was sitting on the sofa, heard what Zishan said, he nodded his head, then asked, Have you two slept with each other yet? Yihong's heart sunk. As expected, it still came.
Your Honor, not yet.
Yihong didn't dare to lie to Yihua.
Is she not willing?
Yihong hurriedly explained to Zishan, Your Honor, you misunderstood, it is my problem. Young people can't do it just because of this? Go and buy some medicine to eat. Yihua shook his head. This person's physique is not good enough. Your Honor has misunderstood. I am the one who is not prepared. Yihua's gaze turned cold. It is you who is not willing. It is she who is not willing. It is I who is not willing. Zishan, who was in the kitchen, suddenly walked out and shouted out. After hearing that, Yihong's expression changed, then explained, Your Honor, it is subordinate who is not willing, it has nothing to do with Zishan. Qing Yutong finally understood what was going on. In actuality, the two of them liked each other, and it was just that Zishan couldn't put down her face.
Yihua said gravely, Since the two of you are not willing, let's have our last meal today.
Yihong was frightened, and she immediately knelt in front of Yihua. Your Honor, I am willing to bear any responsibility for Zishan. Yihua took the orange from his sister-in-law's hand. Don't say anything now, let's eat first.
Your Honor, Wei Chong shouted out gravely. Yihong.
He warned Yihong not to anger his honor anymore. Yihong took a look at Zishan and discovered that Zishan's eyes were red. What are you still standing there for? Quickly go and cook. Yihua looked at Zishan, who was standing there motionlessly, and shouted out gravely. Why is this woman so foolish? Doesn't she know how to please me? She is still resisting even now. These women nowadays, it is even harder for them to lower their heads than to reach the heavens. Wei Chong took a look at Tang Wei, and the latter pulled Zishan into the kitchen. However, right now, Zishan was no longer in the mood to cook. Tang Wei was able to understand Zishan's feelings, and she began to cook herself. Just now, when Zishan saw Yihong pleading for her and kneeling down, Zishan felt her heart ache. This is a feeling that I have never felt before. And when he said that today is his last meal, he should be trying to kill me, right? Looking at Yihong, who was sitting there not saying a word, Zishan suddenly felt a bit reluctant to die. This was not because she was afraid of death, but rather, she was reluctant to part with Yihong. The scene of Yihong taking revenge for her couldn't help but appear in Zishan's mind, and her heart immediately began to ache faintly. Yi Hua had successfully instigated a deity to rebel against him. To be more precise, it was Yi Hong who moved a deity with her sincerity. Chapter 385. Brother-in-law, it's almost time to eat. I'll fill my stomach first. Wei Chong and the others were a little puzzled. Is His Honor hungry? Yi Hua knew that he spoke too quickly and said in a deep voice, "Recently, I like fruits." So that's how it was. Qing Yutong smiled but did not say anything. While holding onto the apple, she carefully peeled it. Half an hour later, the meal was finally ready, and the sky outside gradually darkened. Your Honor, can we start eating now? Tang Wei walked over and asked respectfully. Yi Hua stood up. Open it. Qing Yutong also joined the team that carried the dishes. F***CK. It has been a long time since I have seen such a sumptuous dinner. Ever since they left, my life seems to have returned to how it was in the past, and I feel very uncomfortable. The 3 women sat on one side, the 3 men sat on the other side, and Yi Hua sat on the main seat. Let's eat. What are you still in a daze for? Yi Hua said faintly, then took the initiative to pick up the chopsticks and have a taste. It feels pretty good. Life with a woman is so comfortable. Qing Yutong was also not courteous. After following her brother-in-law for the past few days, she was almost starving to death. Qing Yutong could disregard her image and eat whatever she wanted, but Yi Hua couldn't. He had to follow His Honor's eating method. What does His Honor's eating method mean? In the end, when he saw his sister-in-law wolfing down the food, he glared fiercely at her. I haven't even started eating yet, and you have already finished a bowl. However, Yi Hong and Zishan, who were sitting on the dining table, did not have much of an appetite. Their bowl of rice had almost turned into porridge. Yi Hua saw this, but he didn't say anything. It was their own choice. However, for Wei Chong and Tang Wei, this was the most boring meal they had ever eaten. It should be said that when I am eating together with His Honor, I am unable to let go of myself. Even the sound of chewing has to be suppressed, fearing that it will affect His Honor's appetite. Half an hour later, this boring meal finally ended. Other than Yi Hua and Qing Yutong, everyone else felt incomparably stifled. Qing Yutong didn't have that kind of feeling that other people had. Of course, this was all thanks to Qing Ye. If not, how could Qing Yutong have the title of sister-in-law? Qing Yutong's backer was not just an ordinary person. After the meal, Yi Hua sat on the sofa and ate fruits, while the girls were washing the dishes in the kitchen. Bang! The sound of plates breaking rang out from the kitchen. Yi Hua turned his head around and took a look, and Zishan was standing there in a daze. Tang Wei said, Zishan, let me do it, you go out and rest. No need. Qing Yutong, who was at the side, let out a breath. Is face really that important? Big sister is also like this. Even now, she is still unable to put down her face. Seems like only by being shameless can one be unparalleled under the heavens. Just like me, haha. 10 minutes later, the bowl was finally washed, which meant that something bad had happened. It seemed like Zishan didn't want to face this, and she actually picked up a mop to clean the floor. It was as if he wanted to clean the house even if he had to die. Of course, perhaps he was stalling for time and wanted to stay a little longer. Qing Yutong and Tang Wei seemed to have sensed it and looked at Yi Hua, who was sitting on the sofa, but did not say anything. 1 hour later, Zishan finally finished cleaning the bathroom, and said lightly, I'm going to take a bath. Yi Hua didn't stop them. When Zishan reappeared, she was wearing the same set of clothes that she was wearing when she first came here. I'll just go back to how I came here. Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then looked at Zishan, who was standing in front of him. Of course, there was also Yi Hong, who had a taut expression on her face, and Big Brother Green, who was standing at the side with his brows tightly wrinkled. Yi Hong, do you still remember what I said back then? Yi Hua said. Yi Hong lowered her head and said, I remember. Repeat what I said one more time. Yi Hong paused, and even his fingers were trembling. He wanted to say something, but he was unable to say anything. However, Zishan said faintly, if I am not able to get pregnant within 2 months, Yi Hong will personally kill me. Yi Hua nodded his head. Although it hasn't been 2 months yet, it seems like the two of you don't want to get pregnant then. Yi Hua could be seen taking out a sword that was emitting a faint golden light, and on the sword, there was a vivid and lifelike golden dragon engraved on the sword. Yi Hua casually threw the heaven-defying weapon onto the coffee table. This is the Dragon Rebel sword. Yi Hong, do it. This situation caused Wei Chong to be confused. Is his honor serious, or is he just scaring us? Qing Yutong and Tang Wei also became nervous. Zishan looked at the Dragon Rebel sword on the coffee table and seemed to have accepted her fate. Today, between Zishan and Yi Hong, one of them will naturally die. If the ending is like this, then I will just let myself receive the punishment that I deserve. Yi Hong, do it. With trembling hands, Yi Hong picked up the Dragon Rebel sword from the tea table, looked at Zishan, and then knelt on the ground with a plop. Your honor, I am willing to receive punishment in Zishan's place. Right when Yi Hua was about to say something, Wei Chang's expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly sent a private message to his honor. Your honor, Death Mage has sent news over. 3 deities have gone to Ying family, and it seems like they are looking for Zishan. Hearing that, Yi Hua's brows wrinkled. Seems like this deity is finally making a move. And here I thought that the deity was an idiot. Wei Chong, telling family's people to tell them that the person is here. Yes. Letting out a breath, Yi Hua looked at Yi Hong, who was kneeling down, and said faintly, Yi Hong, do you think that she will care about you when you are like this? This subordinate is willing to do this. Yi Hong said in a low voice. As long as his honor is willing to spare Zishan's life, I am willing to do anything. Yi Hua nodded his head, seemingly agreeing with what Yi Hong said. Soon after, Yi Hua said, Yi Hong, I can agree to your request, and I can even remove the restriction between the two of you. It was too sudden. Yi Hong had never expected this. She was so shocked that she didn't know what to say. Zishan didn't expect that Yi Hua would let her off. You two are still too young. Yi Hua had just changed his mind. Yi Hong, are you willing to use all of your strength to exchange for her freedom? Yi Hua asked. This kind of choice was very difficult for a person to make. Strength. This was a world where strength was respected. Without strength, Yi Hong would still be that little hooligan from before. With strength, Yi Hong would be able to stand above a lot of people. However, to use all of one's strength to exchange for the freedom of a woman who didn't like them, it seemed like a lot of people already had their own answer. However, Yi Hong was still Yi Hong. He didn't become arrogant just because he had powerful strength. Your honor, I am willing. Yi Hong, you have to think this through clearly. There is a possibility that she will return to Ying family, and you will become nothing. Yi Hua reminded once again. Your honor, I have already made up my mind. Thank you, your honor, for taking care of me during this period of time. I have failed to live up to your honor's expectations. Big Brother Green sighed. How many men are willing to give up everything for a woman? I thought that all of those women were fake, but I didn't expect that my little brother was the same as well. Yi Hua said gravely. All right. Yi Hua stretched out his hand and immediately sucked out Yi Hong's ability. Black mist drilled out from Yi Hong's eyes, ears, nose and mouth, causing Yi Hong to howl out in pain. At this moment, only then did Zishan come back to her senses and shouted out miserably, No! Chapter 386. However, Zishan was not able to feel any bit of happiness from freedom. Seeing how much pain Yi Hong was in, what kind of freedom would she want? Yi Hong. Zishan could be seen running towards Yi Hong and hugging onto Yi Hong. Zishan's heart was aching faintly. Yi Hong was just a bit exhausted, but seeing that the person she liked was fine, Yi Hong was very satisfied. With a smile on her face, she said, Zishan, you are finally free. Why are you so stupid? Zishan raised her fist and lightly punched at Yi Chen, just like a little girlfriend who was acting coquettishly. Yi Hong smiled foolishly and said, Big brother often says that I'm stupid. After finished speaking, Yi Hong faced Yi Hua and shouted out respectfully, Your honor, thank you. No need, because it's all up to you now. These words caused Yi Hong and Zishan to be startled. Suddenly, 3 powerful auras appeared, and this caused Zishan's beautiful face to change. His Highness men had arrived. Zishan, it seems like someone has come to bring you home. Yi Hua said calmly. This group of people came quite quickly. Yi Hong slowly stood up. Her physical strength had also recovered quite a bit. Yi Hong smiled and said, Zishan, then I will send you back. Big Brother Green really wanted to slap Big Brother Green. The other person was obviously going to stay behind for you, and you still want him to leave? Is there something wrong with your brain? Then, let's go out and say our goodbyes. Don't disturb my mood of watching TV. Yi Hua said calmly. He was very curious if Zishan would leave or not. Yi Hong had indeed thought that Zishan would leave, so she wanted to send Zishan off. Let's go. Yi Hong's tone was still filled with reluctance, but what else could she do? His honor was able to keep her body, but he was unable to keep her heart. Yi Hong held Zishan's hand and walked out of the villa. After the two of them left, Qing Yutong shook her head. What a fool. Everyone couldn't help but nod their heads. Even Yi Hua felt that Yi Hong was foolish enough to not understand a woman's heart. This was something that he had to learn from the main body. However, the dragon rebel sword which had been set aside seemed to be very embarrassed and ignored. The two walked out of the villa and happened to run into Lin Hong and the other two. Zishan didn't want to cause trouble in front of her house, so she disappeared with Yi Hong. Lin Hong and the other two were slightly taken aback and followed. However, their gazes were filled with astonishment, because just now, that man seemed to be holding onto Madame Ziyuan's hand. Zishan had chosen an open plane. Right now, Yi Hong was feeling a little dizzy. He who does not have the strength to fly at such a high speed would not be able to withstand it, and his nose was already bleeding. Seeing that Yi Hong's nose was bleeding, Zishan used her sleeves to wipe it off. Right now, it was the posture of a woman hugging a man. Yi Hong, who was lying in Zishan's embrace, opened her eyes in a daze, then looked at Zishan's chest and muttered, "So big, so round." Zishan. If this had happened more than a month ago, Yi Hong would have no impression of him at all. Perhaps he would have really left just like that. Yi Hong seemed to have woken up, and when she saw that she was actually lying in Zishan's embrace, she immediately left Zishan's embrace and explained, "I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose." That's right. Yi Hong had always been very polite and courteous to Zishan. However, he was also very concerned about Zishan. It's just that his EQ is a little low. This is giving Zishan a headache. Forget it. Zishan said indifferently. Yi Hong heaved a sigh of relief. This person was about to leave. She couldn't leave a bad impression. Zishan, will you return? Yi Hong asked weakly. Zishan really wanted to learn from Big Brother Green and slap the back of Yi Hong's head. Yi Hong actually dared to ask such a stupid question. Without waiting for Zishan to reply, Lin Hong and the other two rushed to the scene, then knelt down on one knee and shouted out, "Subordinates Lin Hong, San Chi, and Lili, greet Madame Ziyuan." Yi Hong looked at the three people in front of her. Are these the people who are on Zishan's side? My mood is very disappointed. Stand up. Right now, Zishan was emitting out a noble aura, as if she had turned into a high and mighty deity. This caused Yi Hong to be unable to differentiate which one was the real Zishan. Lin Hong and the other two stood up and stared at Yi Hong. San Chi shouted out sternly, "Audacious! Madame Ziyuan is not someone a lowly person like you can touch." Right now, Yi Hong was still holding on to Zishan's small hand. Hearing that San Chi had shouted out for her to stop, Yi Hong let out a sigh and let go of Zishan. This wasn't because she was scared by San Chi, rather, she was reminded by San Chi that it was time for her to let go of Zishan's hand. Although it hasn't been 2 months, but every single day was much happier than before. Eating the food that Zishan cooked, watching Zishan's figure that was busy in the kitchen, was a kind of happiness. This made Yi Hong realize what love was. It was very sweet but also very sour. Lin Hong said respectfully, "Madame Ziyuan, His Highness is summoning you back." Zishan took a deep breath. It seemed like she had made some kind of decision. The kind of life that she had in the past was not what she wanted. "Call me Zishan." Lin Hong and the other two were slightly startled, not understanding what Madame Ziyuan meant. "Tell Prince Ho that I won't go back." Zishan's following words made Lin Hong and the other two dumbfounded. Yi Hong was shocked. Her mouth was agape in disbelief. Could it be that she was deaf? Just a moment ago, Zishan said that she wasn't going back. Lin Hong reacted and squeezed out a smile. "Madame Ziyuan, please don't make things difficult for me. Today is Prince Ho's birthday." "What does his birthday celebration have to do with me? He is my husband." Zishan held onto Yi Hong's hand and encouraged Yi Hong. At the same time, Zishan was also expressing her stance. Even a fool would be able to see through such an attitude, let alone Yi Hong. Of course she would be able to understand. Not only did Zishan not return, she even admitted her identity. Heavens! Happiness was too sudden. This time, he really had a wife. Lin Hong observed Madame Ziyuan and muttered, "Madam, did you fall under some kind of demonic technique?" "Madam, you don't have to worry. Prince Ho will naturally undo these restraints." Zishan snorted coldly. "Demonic technique?" Zishan could be seen hugging onto Yi Hong's waist, then slightly tiptoed and kissed Yi Hong. Yi Hong's mind was completely blank. Compared to the first time they kissed, the kiss this time was exceptionally sweet. As a man, Yi Hong naturally wouldn't let Zishan bear the pressure alone. Taking the initiative, Yi Hong hugged onto Zishan's waist with both of her hands and enjoyed Zishan's cherry lips. In such a situation, Lin Hong and the other two completely treated Lin Hong and the other two as air. They foolishly watched as their madam kissed a lowly person. After a long while, the two of them gradually separated from each other, and a long silver line was actually pulled out from each other's lips. "Zishan, are you really not going to leave?" Yi Hong couldn't help but want to confirm. Zishan revealed out a very natural smile, then looked at Yi Hong and said, "I'm not leaving. If I leave, who will cook for you?" "That's great." Yi Hong was excited like a child as he hugged onto Zishan and spun around. If Yi Hong didn't put in any effort, Zishan wouldn't have fallen in love with him. Chapter 387. Of course, there was another possibility, and that was, fortune favors fools. This was something that could not be solved. Up until now, within Yi Hua's entire subordinate group, there were only 3 people who had good luck. The first one was Death Mage. With his skeleton body, he was able to flirt with a big sister. Furthermore, there was even a language barrier. Yi Hua didn't even understand how Death Mage managed to flirt with Sun Fang. Yi Hua imagined that if he were to reveal his true body in front of Qingya and Donghuang Baiji, the 2 women would definitely roll their eyes and faint. The second is Zhu Tian. His luck is also very good, because he has a woman that everyone wants to bully, Dongfang Yu'er. After all, with Dongfang Yu'er's looks, coupled with her delicate demeanor, she was truly a beauty. However, only Absolute Heaven could bully her. Hence, it could be said that Absolute Heaven was also a lucky person. The third lucky person would naturally be Yi Hong. The difference in status between him and Zishan was obvious. Although Zishan was being restricted by Yi Hua, Zishan wasn't afraid in the slightest. At most she would just die. However, under Yi Hong's care and consideration, Zishan seemed to have gradually fallen for Yi Hong. In actuality, ever since that day when Zishan died, Zishan had begun to slowly fall for Yi Hong. Because, this was the first time she had seen a man go crazy for her. Go crazy for her. That kind of feeling was something that she had never experienced before. Yi Hong had used her sincerity to move Zishan, while Absolute Heaven and Death Mage had used brute force to subdue Zishan. There was a difference between the two. Let's talk about the unluckiest. Of course, it was the Supreme Overlord Yi Hua. The reason why Yi Hua was unlucky was because his luck was too good, to have met 2 women that he couldn't afford to offend. Of course, Yi Hua liked the 2 of them. If not, why would he pamper them so much? Even if they were separated right now, wasn't this another kind of pampering? However, looking at the way things were going, Yi Hua planned to create the most compassionate team. Hee, you're thinking too much. Lin Hong's eyes were filled with killing intent as he shouted, "Madame Ziyuan, please pay attention to your manners. You are smearing Marquis Wang Ye's reputation." Yi Hong placed Zishan down. Now that Zishan wasn't leaving, Yi Hong naturally wouldn't let her go. "All of you listen to me, Zishan isn't leaving anymore. All of you quickly go back to sleep." Yi Hong shouted. San Qi shouted angrily, "Where did this ant come from? To actually speak such arrogant words and even take advantage of Madame Ziyuan, I think that you are tired of living." Zishan pulled Yi Hong behind her. After all, Yi Hong did not have any strength right now, and they would be able to kill Yi Hong with just a single strand of her hair. "Go back and tell Lord Ho that our fate has come to an end. Tell him to take care of himself." Lin Hong asked gravely. "Madame Ziyuan,
You have to think carefully. The consequences of what you are doing right now is very serious. If this matter were to reach Marquis Wangya's ears. Lin Hong, you don't need to explain, I know. But I also want to give Prince a word of advice. There is always someone better out there. Don't act recklessly. Right now, Zishan also seemed to have the intention of hugging onto Yihua's thigh. With Yihua here, there is no need for us to be afraid of any marquis or princes. Even if someone from the royal family comes, there is no need for us to be afraid. Lin Hong sighed, he turned his palm, and a huge black blade appeared in his hand, while Sanqi had a long whip in her hand, and Lili had a pair of sharp claws in his hand. These three weapons were all ancient godly equipment. Prince Ho has ordered me to bring Madame Zi Yuan back. Pardon me for offending you. Go. After finished speaking, Lin Hong leaped high into the air, and the huge blade slashed towards Zishan. A huge godly might was emitting out from the blade, and Zishan's beautiful hair fluttered wildly as she slightly raised her head. A ribbon drilled out from Zishan's sleeve and emitted out a greenish-white-colored glazed light, looking very beautiful in the night sky. Bang! The two actually let out a metallic clashing sound, and a huge shockwave exploded out from the center of Yihong's heart. The shockwave was deafening. Although Yihong, who had turned into an ordinary person, was protected by Zishan, blood was already flowing out from his ears, and his eyes were bloodshot. This kind of pressure was not something that an ordinary person could experience. Sanqi and Li, who were at the back, immediately joined the battle, and Zishan did not dare to be careless. These three could be considered as Lord Ho's capable subordinates, and their battle strength was not ordinary. They were still able to fight one-on-one, but to fight one against three, they would not be able to handle it. Yihong also knew that he was a burden, so he quickly ran away. Don't give Zishan any trouble, or go back and call Big Brother over. Looking at Yihong, who was running away, Lin Hong shouted out to Sanqi, "Capture that man!" Yes. Seeing that Sanqi was going to capture Yihong, Zishan hurriedly went to stop Sanqi. However, Li directly intercepted Sanqi, and with Lin Hong restraining Sanqi, Zishan could only watch as Sanqi captured Yihong. With a hostage in their hands, Lin Hong and Li both stopped. Let him go. Looking at Sanqi, who was strangling Yihong's neck, Zishan's beautiful eyes became bloodshot, and the pressure that Zishan released from her body gradually rose. Lin Hong said faintly, "I can let him go, but you have to go back with us and report to us." "All right, I'll go back with you all." Zishan agreed without even thinking. "No, don't." With Sanqi strangling Yihong's neck, it was very hard for Yihong to even speak. Sanqi smiled in disdain, then slightly increased the strength of its grip. A lowly ant dares to cling onto a dragon. "I dare you to touch him again." A vicious aura burst out from Zishan's body, and a blood net actually appeared behind Zishan. Lin Hong's heart sunk as he hurriedly said, "In order to prevent Madam from escaping, subordinate has to use a bit of means." Lin Hong stretched out his palm, and a red rope appeared on his palm. Lin Hong then threw the red rope towards Zishan. The red rope was emitting out a faint light. Seems like it is also an ancient godly item. In an instant, Zishan was bound by the red rope. Seeing that Zishan was bound by Zishan, the huge blade in Lin Hong's hand slashed out an afterimage. Puchi! The huge blade pierced into Zishan's back, and the tip of the blade was exposed at Zishan's chest area. Yihong lowered his head and looked at the tip of the blade on his chest area, then spat out a mouthful of blood. Sanqi and Li's expressions were filled with mockery. A lowly person dares to say such words. He is truly reckless. Zishan was completely stupefied. I watched as they killed Yihong, and I was so stupid that I thought that they would let Yihong go, but they didn't plan to let me go at all. Lin Hong used the huge blade in his hand to raise Yihong's body up high, and the blood on Yihong's body seemed to be like a faucet that was turned on, flowing all the way down. After raising Yihong in front of Zishan, Lin Hong said gravely, "Madam Zi Yuan, your end won't be any worse than his." To actually dare to make a cuckold of Prince Ho. In this world, there is only one woman who dares to do such a thing. Yihong's eyes were almost unable to open. Looking at Zishan, who was in front of him, Yihong smiled and comforted Zishan. "Zishan, don't worry, my skin is thick, I won't die." However, right after Zishan spoke, blood began flowing out from her mouth non-stop. Zishan was unable to bear it anymore, and 2 streams of tears flowed down from her eyes. "Yihong, don't talk anymore."
You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.